Chapter 9:15. On the West Dragon Mountain of the Baihua State, people came and went, creating a lively and joyous atmosphere. On this day, the first-rate sect of the Baihua State, the Xianqing sect, was about to hold a sect leader handover ceremony. An exceptional prodigy of the Baihua State was about to assume the position of sect leader under the watchful eyes of countless onlookers. Countless dignitaries and sect higher-ups traveled to the West Dragon Mountain to congratulate this rising star of the Kingdom of the Nine States. The new sect leader, Duan Yong, stood at the center of the ceremony in a prim and proper manner. His eyes were glowing with vigor and vitality, and his aura was boundless and powerful. He received the guests from all over the Kingdom of the Nine States with a smile on his face. The old sect master, Gong Sun Ji, had a benevolent smile on his face as he looked at the man who was surrounded like a moon surrounded by stars with a gratified expression. "Congratulations, Senior Gong Sun. You finally made your way out of this." A brawny man made his way to Gong Sun Ji's side with an envious expression. "That's right. A great teacher produces an exceptional disciple. We're all in awe of you for being able to produce such an exceptional disciple." Another elderly man chimed in. "Ha ha. Mr. Liang Chung, Elder Wu, what are you saying? I just happened to pick up a treasure." Gong Sun Ji stroked his beard in a modest manner. Even though his words were filled with modesty, there was still an undisguisable sense of pride in his eyes as he looked at Duan Yong. Duan Yong had been groomed by him, so he was naturally very happy to see his exceptional disciple. The prodigy of the Xianqing sect, Duan Yong, wore a warm smile on his face the entire time, and all of the representatives who came to congratulate him were full of praise for him. "Sect leader Duan, I've heard so much about you, and I'm truly in awe of your exceptional demeanor. How many men in this world are as exceptional as you?" A representative from the Great Tang imperial family spoke with a smile. "That's right. Sect leader Duan is an exemplary young man. In my opinion, in the entire Kingdom of the Nine States, only sect leader and Lin of the 4-9 Immortal sect can compare with you." Another sect representative chimed in. Duan Yong's expression became serious upon hearing this. Sect leader and Lin possesses exceptional aptitude and is the role model for all cultivators. How am I qualified to compete with Lin now? I only hope that he'll be my goal, and I'll work hard to catch up to him. I hope that I won't be left too far behind. Sect leader Duan has such strength, but he's still so humble and polite. We can't compare to him." A representative lamented. Duan Yong smiled and said nothing, but there was a confident smile on his face. After a while, he said with some regret, "It's a pity that Lin is far away in the celestial court and has things to do. If he can come here to participate in the celebration, I believe he and I will definitely become good friends." When the representatives heard this, they all chimed in. "You want to be my friend? You're not worthy." A voice suddenly rang out, echoing throughout the entire ceremony. All the representatives were stunned when they heard this. They stared blankly at the man in front of them, who was followed by a giant white dog. Behind him, a large group of guards silently rolled their eyes, foamed at the mouth, and fainted on the ground. Before Duan Yong could speak, one of the generals began to shout angrily, "Men, this man trespassed into the sect and injured the guards. Take it down." A group of guards rushed toward the man and set up a joint attack formation. Scram! The man opened his eyes, and the supreme might of a king spread out. Golden ripples instantly enveloped thousands of meters and impacted the void. All the guards, including the generals, were so frightened that their eyes rolled back, and they foamed at the mouth, fainted on the ground. At the ceremony, tens of thousands of representatives and sect disciples who came to congratulate also fainted. Most of those who did not faint knelt on the ground, as if they were respectfully welcoming the arrival of their king. Duan Yong calmed himself down, but he could not hide the surprise in his tone. "Fellow cultivator and Lin?" The man smiled faintly. "You're Duan Yong?" Duan Yong smiled naturally and cupped his hands slightly. "Yes, I am Duan Yong. Fellow cultivator and Lin has come from afar. Please forgive me for not going out to welcome you." When everyone saw this, their expressions changed drastically. They did not expect the legendary Enlin to come to the ceremony in such a domineering manner. Hee hee, I am Enlin, but I'm not your fellow cultivator. Because a beast like you is not worthy of calling me by my name. You're not worthy of being my brother. Enlin's body flashed, and he charged directly toward Duan Yong. Duan Yong's expression shifted, but he was a newly advanced return to Void Stage mighty figure, and his reactions were not weak. He took a step forward, and an extremely powerful crimson barrier appeared before him. Enlin's fist was enshrouded in golden light, and a terrifying power of the earth erupted forth, instantly pulverizing the crimson barrier. Duan Yong was also instantly sent flying with blood gushing from his mouth. Duan Yong was astonished. He did not think that his power would be so vulnerable in the face of Enlin. Before he had a chance to do anything, Enlin's figure had already flashed before him. There was no expression on his face, and it was as if he was looking at a dead man as a terrifying golden light enshrouded his fist. Boom! Another earth-shattering sound rang out. The earth tremored violently, and the terrifying golden energy caused the ground within a radius of several kilometers to crack open. Cough, cough. Duan Yong lay on the ground, trembling uncontrollably. He felt as if all of his internal organs had been shattered, and he threw up blood incessantly. Enlin was like a god of war as he looked down at Duan Yong with a foot firmly planted on his chest, preventing him from moving. Everyone stared at the scenes unfolding before their eyes in shock. The supreme prodigy of the Baihua state was insta-killed by Enlin just like that. He was way too weak. Stop. Sect leader Enlin, let's talk this out. Old sect leader Gong Sunji yelled as he hurried over. All of the other cultivators also recovered from their shock and hurried over to mediate. Duan Yong repressed his injuries with great difficulty as he spoke in a calm voice. Mr. Enlin, is there some misunderstanding between us? This is the first time we've met, and there's no vendetta between us. Enlin waved a hand, and Dabai immediately took out a photographic crystal to record. Taichu era 8578, May 11th. What'd you do? Enlin asked in an indifferent voice. Duan Yong's expression shifted slightly upon hearing this. That day had indeed left a deep impression on him. Why would Enlin mention that day? Did he know something about it? Could it be? Before Duan Yong could say anything, Gong Sunji spoke with a calm expression. I have some recollection of that. During that period of time, my disciple went to eradicate the evil cultivators of the Red Lotus demonic sect for the sake of the peace of the Baihua state. Then do you know that he killed an innocent family of 28 people just because an outer sect member of the demonic sect committed crime? He also raped a female cultivator named Kong Zueli to death? Enlin asked in a slow voice. Everyone erupted into an uproar upon hearing this. Duan Yong yelled, You're lying. Enlin, do you have any proof? What you're saying is groundless. It's slander. I can swear that I definitely didn't do what you're saying that day. Enlin pulled out the vermilion bird mirror from his pocket. Vermilion bird mirror. Is Duan Yong telling the truth? Not a single word is true. The vermilion bird mirror replied in a concise manner. Enlin raised his head and looked around at all the cultivators present before speaking in a clear voice. Did you hear that? I'm here to seek justice for those 20 or so lives. I'm going to show you what kind of beast this sanctimonious man is. Many of the cultivators turned to Duan Yong with different expressions upon hearing this. In contrast, Duan Yong's expression was filled with grief and indignation. Mr. Enlin, I have no vendetta against you, so why are you trying to harm me? This mirror clearly belongs to you, so it'll say whatever you want it to say. That's right. Our Xianqing sect is a righteous sect. Duan Yong has spent his entire life slaying demons and defending the righteous path. So how could he possibly do something like this? Gong Sunji also defended himself in a loud voice. Enlin put away the vermilion bird mirror. The vermilion bird mirror is a vermilion bird origin treasure with its own will. It doesn't have a habit of lying, so you can verify this with the vermilion bird sect. Besides, Enlin's eyes narrowed as he looked down at Duan Yong with a cold smile. What kind of bullsh*t righteous sect is this? Even their sect leader is scum. So how can he call himself a righteous sect? I'm not here to debate. I'm here to tell you the truth before sending that piece of sh*t to hell. A black sword projection flashed as blood splattered through the air. A blood-curdling wail erupted as Duan Yang's limbs were all severed by Enlin. That's all. Chapter 9:16. His limbs flew into the sky as blood rained down from the sky. Countless onlookers stared blankly at this scene, as if they had just witnessed something unbelievable. How dare you do this? Let go of my disciple. Gong Sun Ji was the first to react, and he roared as he pounced toward Lin. Lin's left fist was enshrouded in a golden light, and a golden lotus flashed on his forehead as he activated his Earth Lotus Supreme skill to its fullest extent. Just one punch was enough to severely wound Gong Sun Ji, who was at the soul formation pinnacle stage. Duan Yong, if you can admit to what happened all those years ago, I might be able to spare your life. And Lin looked down at the man beneath his feet with a cold expression. A wry smile appeared on Duan Yong's face. How can I admit to something I've never done? Oh, and Lin spoke in an indifferent voice, and a black shadow flashed past with a terrifying sharpness. Duan Yong let loose another blood-curdling cry as his dick flew into the sky. Gasp! All of the onlookers felt a chill run down their spines, and some of the female cultivators even averted their gazes. This sword strike is for Kong Zueli. And Lin's voice was calm and emotionless. Duan Yong's entire body trembled with pain, and his face was deathly pale as blood slowly flowed from his crotch. And Lin unleashed another sword strike, and a white light transformed into a peerlessly sharp sword intent that sliced through all of the man's meridians. Ah! Duan Yong let loose another blood-curdling cry. Boom! Heaven and earth suddenly tremored violently. A massive spell formation rose into the air, for which an extremely powerful might erupted. And Lin, you're the sect leader of the 4-9 Immortal Sect. How dare you try to kill our new sect leader without any evidence? You've incurred the wrath of both men and gods. I'm going to demand an explanation from you today. Old sect leader Gong Sun Ji roared as he activated the sect protection formation. My myriad sword sun suppression formation was created by perfected True Yang. It can, boom. A red nail left a crimson trajectory in the air before striking a certain spot. The formation didn't even get a chance to unleash an attack before it instantly crumbled into nothingness. Gong Sun Ji and Lin didn't even raise his head. Instead, he used more and more force to press down on Duan Yong's chest. The sound of bones cracking could be heard. The next step is to destroy your Tao root. That way, you will never be able to cultivate again. With the sect protecting grand formation destroyed in an instant, they had lost everything they could count on. This time, fear finally appeared on Duan Yong's face. Seeing this, and Lin suddenly smiled and said, if you want to live, there's still a chance. What chance? Duan Yong was really scared, and he asked while clenching his teeth. As long as you admit to what you did and tell us who knew about this, then kneel before the graves of Kong Zuexiang and her entire family in repentance. I swear on my name as the sect leader of the 4-9 Immortal Sect that I'll let bygones be bygones. And Lin spoke. Duan Yong shuddered. Kong Zuexiang was dead? So it was Kong Zuexiang's matter that had attracted Lin? And Lin most likely wasn't familiar with Kong Zuexiang, and the 4-9 Immortal Sect was a super sect that rivaled even the 9 Imperials tribe. As such, he naturally wouldn't go back on his word. However, if he admitted to it, then his reputation would be completely ruined. And Lin, are you serious? Reputation, my guess. My life is the most important thing. Duan Yong knew that if he didn't make a choice now, he would die. Of course I'm serious, but don't lie. And Lin pulled out his vermilion bird mirror. My mirror can see through people's hearts. If you lie, I'll kill you right away. A conflicted expression appeared on Duan Yong's face, but he nodded in the end. All right, on the 11th day of the 5th month, year 8578 of the Tai Chu era, I killed Kong Yuqing and his entire family. His family didn't collude with the demonic sect, but I did that to prevent them from seeking revenge in the future. Continue, and Lin said in an indifferent voice. That's right. I raped a woman before killing her. I was in the wrong here, and I'll definitely repent. Duan Yong lowered his head. All of the spectating cultivators erupted into a frenzy again as they stared at Duan Yong with astonishment in their eyes. They were unable to believe that such a righteous man would do something like this. All of the Xianqing sect elders' mouths gaped open as they stared blankly at their new sect leader. Who else knows about this? And Lin continued. Duan Yong pointed at several of the sect elders. They know that I destroyed Kong Yuqing's sect. He paused momentarily before pointing at one of the elders. He knows everything that I did. The arena suddenly fell into a strange silence, and Lin couldn't help but burst into laughter. The final elder that Duan Yong was pointing at was none other than the old sect leader of the Xianqing sect, Gong Sunji. The tens of thousands of cultivators were silent. They never thought that the two sect masters of the profound clear sect would be such people. The development of this matter caused their worldview to collapse. What a sanctimonious sect leader. He sure hid himself well. I almost didn't discover him. And Lin took a deep breath. Gong Sun Ji's eyes widened. Bullsh *T. Our Xianqing sect has stood in this world for thousands of years and is revered by all. How could we do something like this? Duan Yong, how could you betray your conscience and say something like this just to survive? Shut up, and Lin yelled. He pressed a palm down from afar, and a massive vital energy palm pressed Gong Sun Ji's body firmly into the ground. He took a glance at the vermilion bird mirror to find that there was no reaction. It looked like he had said everything he needed to. Boom, boom, boom. Bolts of golden void lightning tore through space before crashing into the bodies of the elders who had been pointed out. Miserable cries sounded. Elders were turned into charcoal one after another, hacked to death while they were still alive. They were only normal soul formation stage cultivators, so they were no match for Lin's full force attack. Lin, didn't you swear that you would let us go as long as I apologized? Duan Yong's eyes widened with incredulity as he stared at Lin. And Lin looked at Duan Yong with a cold expression. Hee, I don't keep my promises to scum like you. Duan Yong's mouth gaped open, clearly not expecting Lin to do this. Gong Sun Ji's face paled, and his body trembled uncontrollably as he pointed at Lin. The elders didn't do anything bad. They only knew about it. What right do you have to kill them? And Lin, you monster! And Lin flicked a finger, and a bolt of golden void lightning roared before instantly reducing Gong Sun Ji to charcoal. Gong Sun Ji didn't even get a chance to cry out before his eyes widened and his vitality dissipated. The profound clear sect only has scum like Duan Yong because of people from the so-called righteous sects like you. Am I right, Duan Yong? And Lin turned toward Duan Yong, who lay on the ground with all four limbs and a broken penis. Why did you do this? What is your relationship with Kong Zuexiang? Duan Yong asked with despair etched on his face. A faint smile appeared on Lin's face. We are friends. How could this be? Duan Yong's eyes were completely lifeless, and he was unable to accept this reality. It was also at this moment that the power tore his body apart again, pulverizing his Dao foundation along with it. Duan Yong let loose another blood-curdling cry. The cultivation base that he had cultivated for thousands of years was completely destroyed. Just kill me. Duan Yong glared at Lin with rage and despair. You want to die? I'm sorry, but it would be too easy for you to die so easily. And Lin pressed a hand to the top of his head. What are you doing? Duan Yong asked with shock and horror on his face. A dark light erupted from Lin's hands. Soul extraction. This was a soul extraction technique that he had learned from the storage ring that he had snatched from Duan Hunzi. Duan Yong's eyes glazed over, and his vitality quickly drained away. However, his semi-transparent consciousness was still struggling as it was extracted by Lin. Then, the four divine fires appeared at the same time, burning the soul struggling in the void. Indescribable pain made Duan Yong howl with anguish. His blood-curdling screams erupted throughout heaven and earth. Incinerating his consciousness was thousands of times more terrifying than directly killing him. "Kill me. I beg of you, kill me." Duan Yong sobbed and wailed. Enlin remained unmoved and continued to slowly roast his consciousness with his divine flames. Some of the cultivators present had turned pale with fright, while others were clapping their hands in elation. In the end, the Xianxing sect's new sect leader's consciousness was incinerated into nothingness by divine flames right before everyone's eyes. Deathly silence ensued. Enlin closed his eyes and heaved a long sigh of relief. He looked around with a cold and disdainful expression. Today's events have been decided in the name of the 4-9 Immortal Sect. If any of you have any objections, you can come find me at the 4-9 Immortal Sect at any time. Farewell. He rose into the air atop his dog as he spoke, leaving behind a scene of devastation. Not a single one of the cultivator representatives dared to stop him. They all raised their heads and looked on as the white-robed figure slowly disappeared into the clouds. Perhaps this domineering and legendary figure would be deeply imprinted in their minds from now on. Chapter 9:17. At the top of the heavenly tree in the opposite shore realm, a woman sat on a tree branch with her hair cascading down her back like flowing clouds. Her disposition was as gentle and warm as the moon. She rested her chin in one hand and held a newspaper in the other. Her gaze lingered on the portrait on the newspaper, and her brows furrowed slightly as an expression of frustration and exasperation appeared on her face. There were a few large words on the newspaper. Shocking. A man did this to the daughter of the pill sage after becoming the champion of the pill refinement competition. The content was naturally about how Enlin had made a bet with his disciple to date the daughter of the pill sage, Fanny. Never would he have thought that it would work. The woman pulled out another newspaper, which had a few more large words on it. Shocking. During the Xianxing sect leader handover ceremony, a man pinned the new sect leader under his body and did this to the new sect leader's little brother. The main character was naturally Enlin. He had raised the Xianxing sect to the ground on his own, and this was quite a popular piece of gossip on the continent. Moonlit night, you're so stupid. Forget about forcing Enlin to use his mystic technique. You probably won't even be able to do anything to Enlin before he's self-detonated. The woman's clear voice floated in the air, and there was a hint of bitterness and self-pity in her tone. The Xianxing sect incident in the Baihua state created a massive stir across the entire kingdom of the 9 states. Even though some people were quite critical of Enlin's domineering actions, most of the discussion was centered around the 2 sect leaders. Never would anyone have thought that a sect that was quite renowned throughout the kingdom of the 9 states would do something so despicable. Both of the sect leaders had become Oscar-winning actors. The younger sect leader was a gentleman on the surface, but the older sect leader allowed the younger sect leader to do as he pleased. If it weren't for the fact that Enlin had forced his way into the sect, this incident would probably still be buried in the dark. As the incident spread, more and more things were exposed. For example, Duan Yong had kidnapped beautiful female cultivators, used his sect to oppress smaller sects for resources, and the elders had committed some immoral acts. In the beginning, the victims were too intimidated by the Xianxing sect to speak up, but now that the 4-9 Immortal sect was taking the lead, more and more accusations began to surface. There was an elder with a special fetish who even specifically went to other sects and did many indescribable things to various spirit beasts. His methods were so cruel that they were rarely seen in this world. As soon as the matter was exposed, many spirit beast protectors instantly exploded and threatened to flatten the profound clear sect. One incident after another was exposed. The profound clear sect became the target of public criticism. Even if the sect's disciples and elders were innocent, they were still affected by public opinion. This caused the profound, clear sect to become dispirited. Not only that, but under the influence of this incident, many of the so-called righteous sect's dirty deeds were also exposed. Some cultivators bravely stood up to testify, asking the major sects to uphold justice. What Lin had done seemed to have triggered a revolution to eliminate the scum of the righteous sections. At the end of the day, this world was still a world where the strong preyed on the weak. Strength often determined right and wrong. Who knew how many unjust cases were buried by violence? Due to a freak combination of factors, the dark clouds obscuring the sky were parted, allowing the sun to shine down upon them. Many cultivators saw hope, and they all stepped forward without any hesitation. On Lin, many cultivators have come to the 4-9 Immortal sect, and they want us to uphold justice. Lu Qianhuan communicated with Lin through a voice transmission talisman. Then send some disciples to investigate. If there's concrete evidence, then we'll attack them no matter what sect they're from. Lin's reply was very simple and direct. The 4-9 Immortal sect wasn't some charitable organization that enforced justice on behalf of the heavens. However, he didn't want to let the sect remain unscathed after this incident. He wanted the sect to respond in the most proactive manner possible. That way, at least some of the cultivators who were trapped in the darkness would be able to see the light and know that there was a place they could rely on. He wanted them to understand that they were not alone in this world. On a mountain with the fragrance of flowers wafting through the air, the sun shone down upon the earth, creating a warm and enchanting scene. A colorful butterfly fluttered through the air before flying over a patch of green grass toward the top of a mountain. In the end, it was attracted by the fragrance of flowers and landed on a small white flower. Squeak! The sound of footsteps drew closer and closer. An unfamiliar living being had barged into this small world. However, to everyone's surprise, the colorful butterfly was not afraid of strangers. Instead, it flew up and danced around the man, as if it were welcoming a guest. And Lin made his way over the lush green ground by himself and arrived before the small grave. A faint smile appeared on his face as he looked at the small grave, which was already filled with flowers. At this moment, a colorful butterfly suddenly flew up. It danced gracefully under the sun, presenting a beautiful and mesmerizing sight. And Lin greeted the colorful butterfly with a smile. He then turned his eyes toward the small grave. "I'm sorry, Ms. Kong Zuexiang. I've read your diary, but I'm sure someone as kind and gentle as you wouldn't mind, right?" He slowly squatted down and placed a photographic crystal in front of the grave, playing back the scenes that had taken place in the Xinqing sect. From Duan Yang's limbs being severed, to him confessing to his crimes in front of over 10,000 sect representatives, to his utter humiliation, to his consciousness being incinerated into nothingness. Everything was played back by Lin. After the images disappeared, the mountain fell silent. And Lin sat in silence for a long time before bringing out a dish from his storage ring. He opened the lid, and a treasure light radiated forth as a phenomenon instantly enshrouded heaven and earth. In a paradise, 2 innocent little girls grew up without any worries. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter, the 4 seasons came and went, but they were always accompanied by their carefree companionship. The little girl's laughter, the young girl's youthfulness, and the adult girl's charm. Time continued to pass by, and 1,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. In the end, the 2 of them left in each other's company. Everything was so simple and pure. It was as simple as a piece of white paper, but it was also the simple happiness that Kong Zuexiang pursued. The treasure light slowly dissipated, and an alluring aroma wafted through the air. "This dish of mine is called Drunken Fragrance. You're a foodie, so you must be very happy to be able to eat such a delicious dish, right?" And Lin smiled and continued, "I'll give this dish to you, so there's no need to hold back." What responded to him was the cool breeze in the mountains and the beautiful flowers swaying in front of the grave. And Lin placed the booklet in front of the grave before releasing a ball of flames to incinerate it. This diary recorded Kong Zuexiang's entire life, and it was evidence that she still existed in this world. However, Lin felt like Kong Zuexiang would most likely need this diary in the other world she went to after her death, so he burned it for her. The pages of the booklet were reduced to ashes, and sparks danced in the air. The wind on the mountain was a little strong, so Lin flipped open the diary. There is a beautiful handwriting on the yellowed pages, and it was as if a story was being told. In the end, the pages stopped at the very end. In the blank space, there was another diary entry with a different handwriting. Taichu era 10576, 5th month, 16th day. Your friend, Enlin, has avenged you. I wish you happiness in the other world. Mr. Kong Zuexiang, rest in peace. That was the end. Chapter 918. Enlin returned to the university and continued his career of earning money. He would also attend the university's classes, but they were mainly focused on pill refinement, spell techniques, and Dao realm classes. Pill refinement classes could improve his cooking skills, which was very important. Spell technique classes could allow him to learn many practical spell techniques, and he could also gradually learn how to create his own spell techniques, which was also very important. Dao realm classes were mainly for him to watch celestial immortal Ming Yuan talk about profound and mysterious things in class, which would help him improve his standing. The above 3 classes were probably the compulsory classes for Enlin. As for the other classes, he naturally avoided them as much as he could. He was already so powerful anyway, so it didn't matter if he didn't attend them. His life was dull yet fulfilling. Before he knew it, another month had passed. During this time, 2 powerful beings at the soul formation pinnacle stage came to transcend their tribulations. One succeeded, while the other failed. That wasn't the main point. The main point was that he discovered something strange on the ground at the center of the tribulation transcendence. This was something he had never seen before. The sun was setting over the clouds. The sea of clouds looked as if it had been scorched by fire. There was a hint of red within the golden color, creating an extremely vibrant sight. The celestial court was also dyed in this vibrant hue. However, there was something even more vibrant growing on the ground at the heaven-defying Dao Plaza. This was a hexagonal crystal shimmering with golden and blue light. The hexagonal crystal was around the size of a palm and was in the shape of a lotus flower. It contained a mysterious power that even Enlin was unable to decipher, and it was imbued with a certain power of vitality and destruction. Enlin thought for a moment before his eyes turned snowy white. Divine inspection technique. Soon, a string of information began to appear in his mind. Enlightenment crystal of life and death, formed from the residual Tao intent of countless cultivators at the soul formation pinnacle stage who transcended their tribulations and experienced life and death. It is a divine rank item. It can help the host observe the Tao of yin and yang, life and death. Enlightenment crystal of life and death hasn't appeared on this continent for 30,000 years due to the low probability of it being produced. An expression of ecstasy appeared on Enlin's face. Who would have thought that such a treasure would appear before him? Many cultivators would choose a place they liked to transcend their tribulations. There was no such thing as gathering tribulations. Even though Lingtian Dojo was the exclusive Tribulation Transcendence Dojo of the Celestial Court, there would only be one Tribulation Transcendence Dojo every few years. How could it be like recently, where people continuously gathered together to undergo tribulation? Thanks to this wave of Tribulation Transcendence, Enlin was fortunate enough to obtain a life and death enlightenment crystal. Putting everything else aside, just the title of a divine-grade rare item alone proved that this item was priceless. He could not wait to refine the life and death enlightenment crystal and wear it on his body. As expected of a divine item, the moment he put it on, it resonated with his body. A rich life force instantly filled his body of the battle god. He felt that not only had he gained a deeper understanding of the Tao of life, but his body's activity and vitality had also been enhanced to a certain extent. This was a portable cheat. Ding dong. At that moment, the system notification suddenly lit up. Enlin was shocked. He immediately opened the system and found that the cultivation method column was actually flashing. He couldn't wait to open the manual. There was a new mission on it. Detected that the host has refined the life and death enlightenment crystal and has a chance to comprehend the Tao of yin and yang, life and death. Special announcement of a yang-type cultivation method. enter the southern heavenly wing nation and use an engulfment spell technique to absorb the essential power of yang from the sun tree. The specific method is to find the guardian of the sun tree and make mouth contact with it before activating the engulfment spell technique. Mission success. Obtain stage 1 of the Yang God cultivation method. Mission failure. Decrease IQ by 100 points. Mission time limit, 1 month. Note: Yin and Yang cultivation methods are extremely rare, so this mission cannot be rejected. And Lin's eyes widened upon seeing this mission, and he was rooted to the spot. Although the long-awaited reappearance of the Yin and Yang cultivation method was something to be happy about. But why the F***CK did he have to kiss the guardian of the sun tree? Did he and Lin have no morals? Last time, he had to kiss the zombie goddess for the Yin God cultivation method. This time, he had to kiss the guardian of the sun tree for the Yang God cultivation method. What was even worse was that he could have rejected the Yin God mission last time. The original words were, Yin and Yang cultivation methods are extremely rare, so this mission cannot be rejected. This time, it became, Yin and Yang cultivation methods are extremely rare, so this mission cannot be rejected. Flips table. Can I just have fun? If I fail, I'll lose 100 IQ points. He was an extremely intelligent prodigy with an IQ of 160. If I fail, I'll be reduced to a F***king retard. Just the thought of it was terrifying. And Lin was instantly struck by a sense of immense pressure. He paused momentarily before deciding to return to his dorm room. At this moment, the system had already begun its 1-month countdown within his dorm room. Not his dorm room, but rather Su Xiaolan's dorm room. Su Xiaolan stared intently at Lin with her bright eyes. You said you have something very important to do in the Southern Heavenly Wing Nation? And Lin nodded with an earnest expression. What is it? Su Xiaolan was a little concerned. I'm going to absorb the essential power of Yang from the sun tree. The specific method is too complicated, so I won't explain it, and Lin replied. If he were to explain in detail, Su Xiaolan would probably explode with rage. Su Xiaolan tucked a few strands of her hair behind her ear as she looked at Lin with a scorching gaze. You don't need any help? Lin shook his head. No need. I have the invincible Gundam with me, so I'm not scared in the slightest. At most, I'll take little Tion with me and use its spatial powers to get there. Su Xiaolan heaved a faint sigh as she pouted with a hint of uncertainty in her expression. But can I really do it? 200,000 spirit stones for a single meal? I really don't have the face to ask for that kind of price. That's right. And Lin was going to the Southern Heavenly Wing Nation, but he couldn't afford to lose his money-making business. His gourmet restaurant could only be inherited by Su Xiaolan. And Lin held on to Su Xiaolan's soft little hand with a solemn expression. Trust me, among all the people I know, your cooking skills are the only one that can compare to mine. Even I can sell so many dishes, so why can't you? Also, please believe in the power of the frying pan. A hint of confidence finally appeared on Su Xiaolan's face at the mention of the frying pan. And Lin continued, I've already informed the immortals of the Celestial Court that your cooking skills are comparable to mine, so your business shouldn't be too bad. If the old chef god is displeased and wants to challenge you to a battle, just ignore him and wait for me to come back. A vibrant smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face at the sight of Lin's gentle and solemn expression. I'll be waiting for you, Lin. Thus, the successor of Lin's gourmet restaurant was officially confirmed. The next morning, he set off for the Southern Heavenly Wing Nation with Shui Zhantian. Chapter 919. The Southern Heavenly Wing Nation was located in the southernmost part of the Taichu continent. The trees there towered into the sky. At a glance, the entire area was covered in lush green forests. Within the boundless forest, there were over 10,000 species of birds and ferocious beasts, among which the vermilion bird tribe was the most powerful. The vermilion bird tribe formed a nation of birds known as the Southern Heavenly Wing Nation. The relationship between the Southern Heavenly Wing Nation and the human race was very ordinary. They weren't on friendly terms, but they weren't mortal enemies either. Normally, when humans went to the Southern Heavenly Wing Nation, all of the bird tribes would raise their proud heads as if they couldn't be bothered with them. To put it in simpler terms, they were easily left out. Enlin and Shui Zhantian teleported from the Celestial Court's teleportation spell formation to the Spirit Lake realm of the Snake Spirit Tribe in the central southern region of the continent. In the southern region of the Spirit Lake realm, one would arrive at the southern Heavenly Wing Nation after passing through a few small tribes. Enlin wasn't short on money, so they used teleportation spell formations to travel to the border of the southern Heavenly Wing Nation. Phew! The trees here really are. Seeing is believing. Enlin couldn't help but exclaim in amazement as he looked at the gargantuan trees that were hundreds or even thousands of meters tall. Wow, what a majestic forest. The trees here must be growing so tall to pierce through the heavens. This kind of spirit makes them extraordinary. Shui Zhantian flapped his little wings as he exclaimed with excitement. Enlin grumbled as he picked up Shui Zhantian and flew into the sky atop his brick. You're only using spatial travel, but you're already as tired as a dog after just a short journey. You've never stopped complaining, though. Doesn't your mouth get tired? Shui Zhantian bared his little canines. I'm a newbie, so I'm naturally a little clumsy. I'll definitely be able to master this in time. Enlin pursed his lips. He had heard this sentence many times already. Back when they were in the territory of the Watercore tribe, Shui Zhantian was like a driver suffering from road rage as they traveled through space. As soon as it saw those broken and uneven space paths, it wanted to crush them all the way instead of taking a detour. The two of them almost flipped over and were torn into pieces by the chaotic space turbulence. As a result, Enlin gave Shui Zhantian a vicious beating after coming out. After being pummeled, Shui Zhantian's aura became even more feeble. Enlin had no choice but to fly with Shui Zhantian on his brick. In fact, there was also a benefit to flying, which was that they could enjoy the scenery along the way. Enlin looked at the verdant land along the way, which was full of vitality and countless birds flying in the sky, and he couldn't help but feel at ease. They had also seen towering trees that were thousands of meters tall, with many birds moving around on them. Master, that bird looks like a phoenix. Shui Zhantian pointed at a golden flaming bird. Enlin squinted his eyes, and a white light flashed in them. He then shook his head and said, "It's just a bird with a trace of the phoenix's bloodline. The phoenix is one of the rarest species in the continent. How can it be so easy to find one? It's still easier to find vermilion birds." Shui Zhantian scratched his head with his wings. "We've already encountered 3 vermilion birds along the way. Their holy and regal appearances make them look like nobles among beasts." Enlin chuckled lightly. "The only true vermilion bird is that holy beast that lives and perishes with heaven and earth. All the other vermilion birds only possess a trace of its bloodline, so they can't be referred to as true vermilion birds. However, the vermilion bird tribe possesses the bloodline of the vermilion bird and is extremely powerful, so it doesn't really matter if they refer to themselves as vermilion birds as long as they're happy. Even though the vermilion bird tribe ruled over the entire southern Heavenly Wing Nation, they were very laissez-faire. In any case, as long as you weren't trying to destroy this nation, they wouldn't care no matter what you did. This was a free nation, and it was also a nation where you could do whatever you wanted. The most direct manifestation of this was that Enlin had only flown for a little over 500 kilometers when 2 sinister-looking birds appeared. "Cuckoo, this is daylight robbery. Hand over everything you have." A bird enshrouded in poison mist cackled in a prideful manner. "Not just your possessions, but your bodies and your lives as well." "Hee hee hee." A 4-winged crimson falcon with crimson fangs also cackled. "How many times have you been robbed?" Enlin asked expressionlessly. "Master, this is the 5th time, and it's been the same every single time. I'm getting sick of them trying to block my way in the same way." Shui Zhantian was speechless. What are those 2 guys talking about? The poison mist bird was perplexed. "I don't care what they're saying. I'm not interested in dead people. Let's cut the crap and attack." The crimson falcon let loose a sharp cry before pouncing toward Enlin and Shui Zhantian. Shui Zhantian's body was enshrouded in a blue light as he also charged toward the crimson falcon. Boom! The Crimson Falcon was instantly frozen by Shui Zhantian's attack before shattering. Before the rock could make a move, it saw a scene that made its liver and liver tremble. It was so frightened that it let out a strange cry and immediately began to flee. Of course, Shui Zhantian wasn't going to let it go. Its round body tore through space like a cannonball and instantly pulverized the bird. And Lin clapped his hands in praise. Little Tion, you're getting better and better at ramming people with balls. 2 pieces of soul formation initial stage trash dare to steal my treasures? Ignorant fools. Shui Zhantian harumphed with a disdainful expression. There's a reason why the southern heavenly wing nation has such a small population despite being one of the first-rate powers on the continent. Lin held the 2 storage rings in his hands as his expression shifted slightly. These 2 guys have a lot of treasures. Did they steal all of them? How much? Shui Zhantian was extremely excited. There's a total of 450,000 spirit stones, 2 spirit tools, 3 spirit fruits, and a bunch of random things. And Lin did a quick inventory before tossing the 3 spirit fruits to Shui Zhantian. Long live Master! Shui Zhantian yelled as he tasted the fruits with glee. And Lin stroked his chin. We've only been in the southern heavenly wing nation for a day, and we've already been robbed 5 times. The value of the spoils of war has also exceeded 1,000,000 spirit stones. I have a bold idea. Shui Zhantian raised his hands high into the air. Master, I think it's a good idea. All right, let's get down to business first. After that, we can help the southern heavenly wing nation rectify this unhealthy culture. And Lin chuckled as he discovered a new way to get rich. It had to be said, there really were business opportunities everywhere in life. 2 hours later, a gargantuan tree appeared before Lin and Shui Zhantian's eyes. It was over 100,000 feet tall, and its thick tree trunk was like a massive pillar that pierced into the heavens. White clouds and mist swirled beneath it, and its massive canopy extended outward, obscuring the entire sky. Above the canopy, branches and leaves intertwined to form a skeletal structure that fused with the soil and secretions of the tree to form a Ling Tian continent. A faint smile appeared on Lin's face. We're finally here. This is one of the most renowned cities in the southern heavenly wing nation, Maple City. Chapter 920. Maple City was a large city in the northern region of the southern heavenly wing nation, and it covered a much larger area than the holy tree of the Vermilion Bird sect. And Lin flew toward the city atop his brick, and he could already see birds of all colors flying in the air above Maple City from afar. Some of them were migrating in flocks, while others were flying alone. All of them spread their beautiful wings with abandon, painting the entire sky with vibrant colors. A series of crisp cries converged to form the most pleasant music, which was ethereal and soothing to the ears. TSK, 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 all the birds here are so energetic. And Lin saw a blue bird fly past him with its head held high and its chest puffed out in an extremely proud manner. In reality, most of the living beings here were like this. They were extremely proud and free, and there was nothing that could make them lower their proud heads. And Lin and Shui Zhantian strolled through the streets of Maple City. Why are these noobs so arrogant? They're just spirit-nurturing stage spirit beasts, and they're looking at me with disdain in their eyes? How dare they? Shui Zhantian gritted its teeth. If it weren't for the fact that Lin had stopped it, it would definitely have sent all of these noobs flying. All right. You're not the only one being looked down upon. And Lin consoled with a smile. All the tribes that come to the southern heavenly wing nation have a terrible experience. None of them are respected by these birds. What are they so arrogant about? Where do they get their sense of superiority from? They have wings, I have wings. They have fur, I have fur too. Shui Zhantian was extremely displeased. At this moment, a meow-headed eagle happened to pass by, and it looked at Shui Zhantian with a disdainful expression. Ha, little guy. And Lin F*CKU. Shui Zhantian instantly exploded with rage, and he let loose an almighty roar before he was dragged back by Lin. Master, why are you stopping me? I'm going to teach that stupid, meow-headed eagle a lesson. Shui Zhantian roared as he struggled. All right, don't start a fight just because you don't agree with me. We're cultured people, and we need to be harmonious, understand? And Lin cradled the limp Shui Zhantian in his arms before slowly making his way forward. The surrounding buildings were all made of wood. Some of them were so simple that they were made of twigs and vines. There were also many round, open-air houses. Yes, that's right. In fact, it was just a huge and crude bird nest. There were many kinds of things for sale on the bird's nest. Most of them were pure natural things condensed from the essence of heaven and earth, such as spirit liquids, medicinal herbs, fruits, and so on. The southern heavenly wing nation was most likely the place on the entire continent that produced the most spirit fruits and immortal fruits. It couldn't be helped. There were many plants and fruit trees. Naturally, there would be more rare medicinal herbs and fruits. The fruits were sweet and juicy, but in Lin and Shui Zhantian's attention was elsewhere. They passed through one house after another and finally arrived at a strange hut with a wheel on the roof. The exterior of this small house was like a thick tree trunk, and it was in a completely sealed state. A hole would only open up if a primeval stone was thrown into it. And Lin tossed a primeval stone into the hole without any hesitation. The entrance fee of 10,000 spirit stones was nothing to Tycoon and Ka. Welcome to the Heavenly Knowledge House, my dear guest. A pitch-black crow with a pair of dark green eyes spoke in an extremely hoarse voice, as if it had fused as one with the darkness. It was about the size of a human, and it sat with its back straight on a wooden chair. Its surroundings were dim, and there were only 2 balls of faint yellow flames burning around it. You're the omniscient crow of the southern heavenly wing nation? And Lin asked. The crow chuckled. That's right. I'm the crow of all knowledge. As long as you pay me enough money, there's no information I can't obtain. Very good. A relaxed smile appeared on Lin's face. I want all of the information regarding the guardian of the sun tree. Gasp. The all-raven drew a sharp intake of breath, and its eyes widened as the green light within them intensified. The guardian of the sun tree is the most mysterious being in our southern heavenly wing nation. Why do you want information on it? I'm curious. The more mysterious a being is, the more interested I am. And Lin smiled. The crow of all knowledge cringed slightly. I don't have enough information about the guardian of the sun tree either. Shui Zhantian harumphed coldly with a disdainful expression. You dare to call yourself the omniscient crow of all knowledge? What an undeserved reputation. Boom! A terrifying power erupted forth, making the air congeal around them congeal. The crow of all knowledge's aura erupted forth like a boundless abyss, making one feel as if it were going to engulf everything. The hair on Shui Zhantian's body stood on end as it abruptly curled up into Lin's arms. Never would it have thought that this ordinary-looking crow was a mighty figure at the pinnacle of the return to void intermediate stage. The crow of all knowledge looked at Lin with a profound expression, and its voice eased slightly. You can leave, but you can't question my professionalism. Its meaning was very clear. Come if you want, piss off if you don't. Tell me everything you know. And Lin didn't leave. What he needed the most right now was information about the guardian of the sun tree. I don't know much, but the value of the information is quite high, so it'll cost 300,000 spirit stones. The crow of all knowledge replied. Slap. And Lin slapped 30 vital stones onto the table without any hesitation. You're such a straightforward man. The crow of all knowledge grinned, and countless black, crow-like shadows hovered within the dim space, as if they were also smiling with elation. The guardian of the sun tree is the being with the purest bloodline in the entire vermilion bird tribe. It resides at the pinnacle of the return to void pinnacle stage. Apparently, once it unleashes its essential vermilion bird domain, it can instantly reduce an area within a radius of over 50 kilometers to scorched earth. It has very simple connections, and it only has one older brother. The crow of all knowledge's eyes flashed. However, that older brother is the most powerful being in the southern heavenly wing nation, the eternal sun god. Even though the eternal sun god has left the southern heavenly wing nation, I advise you to be careful if you want to target the guardian of the sun tree. As expected, Enlin's expression became a lot more serious upon hearing this. This was very important information. However, there was one more important piece of information that he needed to confirm. That's all I know. The guardian of the sun tree is the most mysterious being in the southern heavenly wing nation, and I paid a heavy price to obtain this information. The crow of all knowledge heaved a faint sigh. That's it. I have one more question. What's the gender of the guardian of the sun tree? Enlin asked with a serious expression. The crow of all knowledge faltered upon hearing this, as if he was a little surprised by Enlin's question. Is that very important? That's very important. Enlin immediately replied. No sh*t. He was going to kiss the guardian of the sun tree. If he was going to kiss a male vermilion bird, erg. The guardian of the sun tree is a female, the crow of all knowledge confirmed. Enlin heaved an internal sigh of relief upon hearing this. This was the answer he wanted to hear the most. Thanks. Enlin cupped his fists in an elated salute. The crow of all knowledge was perplexed. Why was this human so happy? Why was he happy? Chapter 9:21. Enlin left the heavenly knowledge room with Shui Zhantian in his arms. The place they were going to now was the center of the southern heavenly wing nation, the sun tree. The status of the sun tree of the southern heavenly wing nation was equivalent to that of the celestial court of the kingdom of the 9 states. It was the most exalted and transcendent place in the entire region. The sun tree was slightly weaker than the celestial court, but it was said that there were 3 mythological beasts among its ranks, one of which was the older brother of the sun tree's guardian, the eternal sun god. The all-knowing crow had told him that the eternal sun god had already left the southern heavenly wing nation to attend to some matters, so he posed no threat to Enlin's plan. If it was still here, then the difficulty of Enlin's mission would skyrocket. If the eternal sun god still had a sister complex, then Enlin wouldn't have to return to the celestial court. Well, thank goodness it's not here. There was also a mythological beast, which was the legendary Kuin Peng. Apparently, it liked to travel to other places to play, so it was most likely not in the southern heavenly wing nation. The third mythological beast was the 9-colored divine vermilion bird. She was the most reclusive mythological beast in the sun tree and rarely left the sun tree. Many living beings of the southern heavenly wing nation viewed her as the second guardian of the sun tree. Enlin pondered this for a moment. The 9-colored divine vermilion bird was most likely the greatest danger on this trip. However, it was just a kiss on the guardian of the sun tree. The divine beast wouldn't mind, right? As he flew on his brick, he contemplated his next course of action. How to approach the guardian of the sun tree was a problem, but how to kiss a bird was also a problem. Not only did he have to overcome the physical obstacle, but he also had to overcome the psychological obstacle. For example, if you were asked to kiss a chicken, would you be able to do it? Even if he could bring himself to kiss her, should he choose to kiss her forcefully, or should he slowly cultivate their feelings before kissing her? If they wanted to nurture their relationship, could it be done in less than a month? If it was a forced kiss, what should he do afterwards so that he wouldn't be killed by that chicken? Or should he use other methods? Enlin couldn't help but look up at the sky and let out a long sigh. Suddenly, he felt that this mission was very difficult. This was definitely a hellish level of difficulty. Master, don't let your thoughts run wild. Everything will work out in the end. Let's just let nature take its course. And perhaps everything will change in the future. Shui Zhantian offered words of consolation at the sight of Enlin's dejected expression. Enlin rubbed Shui Zhantian in his arms with a smile and nodded. Who would have thought that little Tian would also become so gentle and caring? This is very good. An adorable smile appeared on Shui Zhantian's face. It knew what Enlin wanted to do. This was because Enlin had once discussed with him how to kiss the guardian of the sun tree. Therefore, it had prepared a recording crystal and was prepared to record this historic scene. Yes, that was the key, because this would be its greatest trump card against its master. With that recording, let's see if Master still dares to spank it. If Enlin spanked it, it would send the recording crystal to Su Xiaolan. When that time came, the biggest downside of the Southern Heavenly Wing Nation was that there were no large-scale teleportation spell formations. Perhaps it was because all of the living beings here had a pair of wings, so they could just fly wherever they wanted. Why would they waste resources to build teleportation spell formations? All of the bird species took pride in flying, so they disdained building teleportation spell formations. This was a tough situation for all other living beings. If they were below the spirit nurturing stage and didn't have any flying techniques, they wouldn't even have the courage to come to the Southern Heavenly Wing Nation. The mountains were filled with ferocious birds, so walking to the Sun Tree would probably be as difficult as going on a pilgrimage to the Western Paradise. And Lin's brick kinesis flight was a lot more convenient. A distance of several 100,000 kilometers really wasn't that far for him. 2 days later, they passed through countless forests and arrived at a vast grassland. This was a completely different scene from before. The lush green grass stretched as far as the eye could see, and the blue sky stretched as far as the eye could see. There was a gargantuan tree in a certain direction on the grassland. "I finally see you, Sun Tree." A smile appeared on Lin's face. So big, so tall, so thick. Shui Zhantian's eyes widened, and he was so shocked that he didn't even know how to say idioms. The trunk of the Sun Tree was countless kilometers thick, and it extended all the way to heaven and earth, as if it were a bridge connecting heaven and earth. The canopy of the tree was divided into many layers, and each layer formed a floating continent. The canopy at the bottom was the largest, and it covered an area of over 50 kilometers in radius. With each successive layer, the canopy would shrink to a certain extent, and it was like an extremely special conical tree. It was wide at the bottom and sharp at the top. Apparently, the Sun Tree is divided into 9 continents, and normal living beings like us can only go to the bottom 6 levels. The top 3 levels can't be accessed without a special identity. And Lin stared at the Sun Tree with a scorching light in his eyes. Shui Zhantian was extremely excited. "Master, we have to see everything about the Sun Tree. It's so beautiful." That's right, this Sun Tree was extremely beautiful. Its trunk didn't have any special characteristics, but its leaves were breathtakingly beautiful. The leaves on each layer were of a different color, and it looked like a rainbow tree of life that existed between heaven and earth. It was extremely vibrant and beautiful. The leaves on the bottom layer were emerald green, and they were full of vitality and vitality. The leaves on the second layer were light orange, and they glowed with a jade-like luster. The leaves on the third layer were golden, and they were dazzling and exuded a sense of opulence. The leaves on the fourth layer were crimson, and they were as scorching as a scorching flame. The leaves on the fifth layer were deep blue, and they were as clear as the ocean. The leaves on the sixth layer were deep purple, and they were as seductive and ethereal as the purple clouds of the night. The continents on the last 3 layers were enshrouded by white clouds and mist, making it impossible to see what was going on inside. Strong winds blew past, and all of the leaves swayed in the wind, creating a beautiful sight to behold. And Lin and Shui Zhantian flew toward the Sun Tree. The Sun Tree held an extremely holy status in the Southern Heavenly Wing Nation. It symbolized life and hope, and it was not to be defiled by anyone. "We've reached the no-fly zone. Let's go on foot." And Lin looked at the massive Dubai line that had been carved into the ground, and he began to slowly descend. The Sun Tree had a no-fly zone. Apparently, 2 immortal beasts had accidentally entered the no-fly zone of the Sun Tree 2,000 years ago, and they were still battling in the sky. They were then blasted into nothingness by the energy unleashed by the Sun Tree, and they didn't even have a chance to escape. Apparently, only the Sun Tree itself had the right to be closest to the sun in the sky within the no-fly zone of the Sun Tree. If you dared to jump around in the sky after entering the no-fly zone, then prepare to be punished by the heavens. And Lin and Shui Zhantian landed on the ground and immediately began to run. After a short while, they arrived at the base of the tree. There were many birds here, and all of them had retracted their wings and were walking clumsily like ducks. They made their way onto the hovering energy boards, which carried them toward the continent in the canopy of the tree. and Lin and Shui Zhantian also stepped onto the energy boards and flew toward the first level of the Sun Tree. Chapter 922. The leaves on the first level of the Sun Tree were emerald green and exuded rich vitality. The canopy of the tree covered an area with a radius of over 50 kilometers. The first level was a super large commercial area where all types of products were sold. Most of the products were specialty items from the southern Heavenly Wing Nation. And Lin and Shui Zhantian sat on the energy board and arrived at the first level of the canopy, where they were immediately astonished by the vast array of shops and the dazzling array of products on display. So many exotic ingredients and treasures. Shui Zhantian's round eyes glowed with a scorching light as he looked around with a translucent liquid flowing from the corner of his mouth. And Lin walked toward a shop owned by a blue ice bird and picked up a spirit fruit. "How much is this?" The blue ice bird replied with a cold expression, 20,000 spirit stones for one. And Lin nodded upon hearing this. 8th grade spirit fruits were sold for 20,000 spirit stones each, which was indeed cheaper than the market price in the Kingdom of the Nine States. "Can you go any cheaper? How about 18,000 spirit stones?" He wanted to try and bargain. The blue ice bird looked into the sky in the distance. "Oomph." And Lin, "Master, don't stop me. I'm going to ram it to death. I'm going to make you cry tears of remorse." Shui Zhantian couldn't help but pounce toward the blue ice bird with rage. It was one thing to ignore Lin, but it was also being ignored despite how adorable and terrifying it was. How the F***CK could this be tolerated? However, a pair of large hands grabbed it again. "Calm down," and Lin snapped. The blue ice bird finally turned its wandering gaze toward Lin and Shui Zhantian again. "Keep your little brat in check. Just because he's adorable doesn't mean he can do whatever he wants. The Divine Tree Divine Guardian Squad is right here. If you want to cause trouble, then be prepared to receive divine judgment." And Lin held Shui Zhantian in his arms with an apologetic smile before silently walking away. The Sun Tree was an extremely holy and revered place, and it was the only place that the Vermilion bird tribe strictly managed in the southern Heavenly Wing Nation. Private fights were prohibited in this place. If a fight really broke out, the Divine Guards would arrive in less than a minute and kill all the fighting creatures. "Master, we're being looked down upon here. How can you just let it go?" Shui Zhantian struggled in Lin's arms with an enraged expression. And Lin pursed his lips in exasperation. "So what if you can't get over it? Are you going to F***CK the heavens or crush the 9-color divine Vermilion bird? If you don't have the strength, then keep a low profile." As they were walking, a yellow figure suddenly appeared in front of Lin with a friendly smile. "Welcome, friend from far. I am Old Yellow Ox. Do you need a guide?" And Lin stopped in his tracks and looked at the bull demon in front of him with some surprise. "What kind of tour guide are you if you don't sell tickets?" "Yellow Ox." The yellow-furred ox demon standing in front of him scratched his head in confusion. "That's enough. I don't need a guide." And Lin waved a hand to signal for it to leave. However, Old Yellow Ox didn't give up and pulled out a badge. "Think about it, brother. Do you see this badge? I'm a gold medal tour guide. I'm one of the most powerful beings in the world of tour guides. There's no place on the Sun Tree that I'm not familiar with. If you hire me, I'll make sure you have a good time." His black eyes flashed as he spoke in a low voice. "I know many exciting places, and I can help you find many beautiful bird people with explosive bodies and supple skin." And Lin's expression changed slightly upon hearing this. Of course, he was only interested in what Old Yellow Ox had to say. Old Yellow Ox continued in an enthusiastic manner upon seeing Lin's expression change. "My tour guide fee is a little expensive at 10,000 spirit stones, but I'm a professional tour guide." And Lin's lips twitched. "I'll eat, drink, and play with you. There's no place on the Sun Tree that I can't go to. I'll make sure you have a great time on the Sun Tree." Old Yellow Ox thumped his chest in a confident manner. "There's no place you can't go? You think you can go to the top 3 levels of the Sun Tree?" Shui Zhantian chuckled coldly. Old Yellow Ox choked upon hearing this. And Lin, did Shui Zhantian suffer some kind of trauma? Why did he feel like he was becoming more and more of a stickler? All right, then you can play with us for a while. And Lin tossed a vital stone toward the yellow cow in a lavish manner. Thank you, brother. A wide smile appeared on old Yellow Ox's face. As a top-notch tour guide, he naturally knew which customers were extremely wealthy. How could the owner of a snow soul beast, which was one of the 10 legendary beast pets of the cultivation world, be inferior? Just as he had predicted, this human was extremely extravagant. After a brief introduction, Old Yellow Ox also began to enthusiastically explain the customs and practices of the first level of the Sun Tree continent. Brother and Lin, if you're interested in birdmen, the Northwest Autumn Plains area is full of high-grade birds that can transform into human forms, and they can flap their wings and take you into the sky while having sex. It's super satisfying. And Lin's expression darkened. Let's change the subject. He hadn't even F***ed a human yet, and he was already encouraging him to F***ck the bird? What a joke. Old Yellow Ox choked upon hearing this. Speaking of which, wasn't this man excited by the birdman that he had mentioned before? Why wasn't he interested now? Then, Brother and Lin, aside from birdmen, the most unique feature of the first level is all types of rare fruits. There are some spirit fruits that are extremely rare on the entire continent, but we have all of them here. The yellow cow led the way, and there were a few spirit fruits that caught in Lin's eye, which he bought along the way. The sun fruits produced by the sun tree are the most renowned, and they are split up into 9 different grades. The sun fruit on this level is known as the green sun fruit, and it is a 9th grade spirit fruit. It is imbued with extremely rich yang-type essence, and there are some side effects to eating it. For example, the sun will turn green for a short period of time. Old Yellow Ox continued to ramble on, and Lin's lips twitched upon hearing this. What the F***ck was this about seeing the sun turn green? Did he have to admit that watching too much porn would result in the same effect? He wasn't interested in the first level, so Lin suggested going to the second level of the sun tree. Old Yellow Ox naturally fulfilled his role as a tour guide, and he immediately led the way to the floating energy boards on the second level. There are so many birds lining up, Shui Zhantian exclaimed. He was greeted by the sight of over 100 huge birds of different sizes, all of which had their wings tucked up, lining up obediently like ducks. Come with me. Old Yellow Ox turned to Lin and Shui Zhantian with a sly smile before striding past the line of people and making his way forward. Lin was a little confused, but he still followed along. The crimson bird that was responsible for controlling the floating energy boards caught sight of Old Yellow Ox, and a hint of respect appeared on its proud expression. Big Brother Ox, are these your customers? That's right, please give me a pass. Old Yellow Ox nodded indifferently. No problem, no problem. The crimson bird pointed to an energy board that had just been activated with a smile. This way, please. Thus, Lin and Old Yellow Ox cut the line and made their way onto the floating boards under the envious and jealous gazes of all the birds lining up. Lin was a little shocked. How could a soul formation initial stage Yellow Ox be so powerful? How could it be respected by a crimson bird? This was no ordinary cow. A smug smile appeared on Old Yellow Ox's face. Brother Lin, do you think I'm bad asterisk? Lin shook his head. No. Old Yellow Ox. Chapter 923. Lin's reply left the yellow cow dumbstruck for a few seconds. It almost threw up a mouthful of blood. Brother Lin, I'm a proper cow, the yellow cow said with a serious expression. Lin nodded to express his understanding. This was the same as saying that I had tattoos, smoked, drank, cursed, and went to nightclubs, but I knew that I was a good girl. The yellow cow had been urging Lin to go to the romantic area of the sun tree this entire time, so it was no wonder that Lin would think otherwise. The energy hovering board continued to ascend. Soon, they passed through the thick layer of land and arrived at the second level of the sun tree. The second level was slightly smaller than the first level, and the leaves were a faint orange color. The land formed by these leaves was extremely vibrant and translucent, and it glowed with a jade-like luster. It was extremely soft to the touch as one stepped on it. The yellow cow continued to lead the way and gave an animated explanation. The second floor is mainly a place to refine all kinds of equipment and pills. If you want to customize something good, I know a refiner with top-notch techniques. I can introduce him to you. The old yellow ox patted his chest and guaranteed. Oh, right. And Lin waved a hand. I'm not interested. He possessed the advanced knowledge of Purple Star mechanical engineering and knew how to refine tools, so he wasn't interested in any other tool refinement masters. He simply had too many treasures in his storage ring and couldn't be bothered to refine them himself. An awkward smile appeared on the yellow cow's face before continuing to chat about the local customs and practices of the second level. And Lin was a little dispirited, and he asked after a while, "Yellow cow, I'm a little interested in the top 3 levels of the Sun Tree. Do you know how to get there?" The yellow cow's expression became grave at the mention of the top 3 levels of the Sun Tree. The top 3 levels are the most mysterious restricted area, even for native living beings of the southern heavenly wing nation, let alone foreign living beings like you. The yellow cow replied, "It's exactly because it's so mysterious that I'm curious. Why don't you tell us about it? I only know about the 7th level. I've heard that the most regal beings of the Vermilion bird tribe reside there. As for the 8th and 9th levels, I really don't know anything about them. How much do you know about the guardian of the Sun Tree?" Lin asked. The yellow ox looked at Lin warily and asked, "What do you want?" Lin heaved a long sigh. "To tell you the truth, I'm very curious about the guardian of the Sun Tree. If I can get close to it, I'm willing to pay any price." The yellow cow heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing Lin's honesty. There's no one in the southern heavenly wing nation who isn't curious about the guardian of the Sun Tree. I'm also very curious, but I still know nothing about it. There's a legend that states that when the guardian of the sun appears in its true form in the southern heavenly wing nation, a magnificent red feather petal will descend from the sky. Blue winds will sweep through the entire continent, and the power of the bird tribe will be completely unleashed. At that time, the southern heaven wing nation will welcome a true revolution. And Lin's curiosity was piqued as he listened to the ox's words. Was the guardian of the sun really that powerful? The yellow cow paused momentarily before speaking with a serious expression. "However, Brother Lin, if you want to enter the 7th level, I know of a way." Lin was ecstatic upon hearing this. "What way?" "The 6th level is the arena of the southern heavenly wing nation. If you can win the championship in the arena for a day, then you'll have a chance to enter the 7th level. The yellow cow replied. "I'm good at fighting. Let's go." Lin was brimming with confidence. "Don't be rash, brother. There's something you have to know," the yellow cow cautioned. Lin turned to the yellow cow with a confused expression. "Battles in the arena are battles to the death. This means that in a battle between 2 living beings, one of them must die in order to win. Furthermore, there are no restrictions on the cultivation bases of the participants. If you're lucky, a spirit nurturing stage cultivator can become the champion. If you're unlucky, a return to void stage mighty figure might even appear." The yellow cow turned to Lin. "I know you're very powerful, but what if you're unlucky and encounter a return to void stage mighty figure? You have to realize that once you sign up, you can't back out." Lin's expression remained indifferent. "Let me ask you, what's the most powerful return to void stage mighty figure that has ever appeared in the arena?" "Return to void intermediate stage," the yellow cow replied with a grave expression. "It's going to be a massacre." Lin couldn't help but burst into laughter. "Let's go level 6. The yellow cow was shocked. "Brother Lin, are you really not going to reconsider? There's no need to take such a huge risk just for the 7th level." Lin's footsteps faltered as he turned to glance at the yellow cow behind him, and a peerless aura and might erupted from his body. "Risk? If I participate, then I'll be the most powerful participant in the history of the Sun Tree Arena." The yellow cow was stunned into silence by Lin's aura, and it stared blankly at the oncoming man. After a long while, it murmured to itself, "I've never seen someone who's so stubborn." Lin had already made up his mind to proceed to the 6th level, so the yellow cow could only follow along. They passed through the regal and dazzling golden continent, the scorching red continent, and the blue continent, which was as clear as the ocean before finally arriving at the enchanting purple continent. So this is the 6th level, and Lin looked around at the monotonous scenery around him before turning his gaze toward the gargantuan arena in the distance. This arena was extremely large, taking up almost half of the purple continent's surface area. Rumbling booms could be heard coming from within the arena, as well as the crazed cheers of spectators. That's right, this is the craziest, bloodiest, and most glorious place in the Sun Tree. There was a scorching light in the yellow cow's eyes. Every single powerful being in the southern Heavenly Wing Nation wants to come to the arena to prove themselves. As long as they can become the champion of a single day, even if they're only of the spirit-nurturing stage, they'll receive the respect of countless birds. The champion of the arena not only represents power, but also the courage to fight to the death. I love this place. Life should be fearless and never give up. Shui Zhantian stared at the gargantuan structure constructed from beige stones, and his eyes were filled with yearning and the desire to battle. Boom, boom, boom. The tremors from the battle and the light from the battle seemed to be drawing out the battle intent in their hearts. And Lin's eyes lit up, and his gaze pierced through the purple night mist to catch sight of the golden words on the gate. Sun Tree Arena. Let's go. He led the way toward the arena as he spoke. The yellow cow could only follow along. As a gold medal tour guide, even if a customer wanted to die, he had to wait for them to die before finding another customer. This was his professional code of conduct. Chapter 924. A series of powerful beasts roamed around the hall. Some of them were here to register, while others were here to spectate. And Lin had told the Yellow Bull that he was only an ordinary soul formation final stage cultivator, so it was normal for the Yellow Bull to be concerned. After completing the registration procedures, Lin was led into the spectator area by the Yellow Bull. Lin, boom. Even the skeletal falcon that had just taunted Lin had collapsed to the ground, leaving behind a pool of its own blood. The ground also began to tremor. Thunderous cheers erupted once again. It was quite clear that this Dark Eagle King was very popular among the spectators. The Yellow Bull shook its head. Not necessarily. He might have to win 10 consecutive victories. Who would have thought that a human would come to participate? Don't tell me he's pissed his pants from fear. Cuckoo. A skeletal falcon cackled. The soul formation intermediate stage, soul beast, trembled uncontrollably with a deathly pale face. Many powerhouses could even gain many insights from the battles between warriors in the arena. The newcomer seemed to have discovered something, and her cackling abruptly ceased before she turned and fled. She was petite and wore a pair of red high heels, but she appeared particularly beautiful and graceful. She looked around with a haughty expression, and her expression was extremely similar to that of Lin's. It was as if she were also saying, "I'm not targeting anyone. I'm just saying that everyone here is trash." The Sun Tree Arena had selected 64 powerful cultivators from the 200 or so participants who had registered for the competition. The result of the battle was that the Dark Eagle King had defeated the Dark Heavenly Horse and secured 3 consecutive victories. And Lin had also made it to the finals. All of them were going to gather together and engage in the cruelest battle to the death. Only one person would be able to walk out of the arena alive. The other 63 powerful beings would all be greeted by death. The young woman smiled as her eyes narrowed slightly. She licked her lips with her little pink tongue as she spoke in a voice as pleasant as an oriole's. None of you will be able to escape today. I'm withdrawing. The battles in the arena continued, and it appeared to be a one-on-one elimination match. There were all kinds of spectators. At a glance, there were nearly 100,000 of them. In a huge waiting room, there were already dozens of Beast Clan powerhouses looking at Lin with malicious intent. A giant black eagle extended its wings that were as sharp as blades and streaked through the air, instantly slicing a tiger-headed 4-winged bird into 2. As soon as they entered, they were frightened by the thunderous and deafening shouts. The gate to the Sun Tree Arena was extremely grand. It was propped up by 2 golden stone pillars that were over 1,000 meters tall. A white oriole looked at Lin and smiled. Today's battle has already begun. The registration period is over. If you want to participate, You can register for tomorrow's battle. If you surrender, I'll let you die a little easier." In the end, the Dark Eagle King's opponent was another middle stage soul transformation netherworld heavenly horse. That battle was exceptionally intense. The energy from the collisions was earth-shattering, raising the passion of all the spectators. Cheers and shouts swept across like waves. His opponents were far too weak, and they didn't even have the desire to exchange words with them. He. Human, have you thought about how you're going to die? He finally obtained a spot to enter the 7th level, and he was so excited that tears streamed down his face. Yo, hello, all competitors. An extremely pleasant voice sounded, as if it were the voice of nature, drowning out everything else in this world. If you perform exceptionally well and receive the recognition of the judges, you might be able to obtain a spot to enter the 7th level even if you win a single victory, the yellow cow added. And Lin turned his gaze toward the center of the arena. The arena, there was an area with a radius of 5 kilometers, and it was enshrouded by a massive spell formation that prevented the spectators from being affected by the energy fluctuations. And Lin nodded nonchalantly. Then I'll register for tomorrow's battle. The next morning. It's been a long time since I've tasted fresh human flesh. Spectators weren't just there to watch a battle of this caliber. And Lin was led to the waiting room by a graceful female swan. The yellow cow's golden tour guide badge was quite useful here, and there was even a shortcut for registration. Master, this white warbler is very polite. She's much better than the birds outside. Shui Zhantian sighed with emotion. She had admitted her feelings with such sincerity. Her service attitude was truly exemplary. And Lin was astonished. I have to win 3 consecutive victories to obtain a spot to enter the 7th level. He used his divine sense to do a rough scan, and he could sense that the most powerful enemies present were only at the soul formation intermediate stage. It wasn't that he was targeting the contestants, but that these powerhouses were all trash to him. One powerful being after another sneered at Enlin, but Enlin couldn't be bothered to respond. Enlin nodded slightly. The judge was quite powerful, so he most likely wasn't blind and couldn't tell that Enlin was bad. *SS. Why am I so unlucky? Whoosh! A red ribbon instantly shot through the air, sweeping up the mountainous body before flinging it toward Enlin. Plop, plop! The crisp sound of footsteps landing on the ground sounded. In the eyes of the spectators, the competitors in the arena weren't mere monkeys. Instead, they were true heroes worthy of respect and admiration. It was exactly because of this that the champions of the arena had a chance to enter the legendary 7th level. Shui Zhantian, he turned to look at the judges. The most powerful judge was a living being in the form of a vermilion bird with 4 wings spread out from its body, and crimson flames burned like silk around its body. And Lin shrugged. He was going to show them what true terror was tomorrow. The woman wore a colorful dress with 9 different colored ribbons dancing around her. She was as beautiful as a peach, and her eyebrows were slightly curved, while her eyes were especially bright and energetic. Sitting on a bench and watching the battle, suddenly exclaiming "I-O," and then breaking through to the next realm was not a rare thing here. This Dark Eagle King is a super powerful being of the soul formation final stage. I hope he doesn't come tomorrow. Otherwise, you're going to have a tough battle ahead of you, brother Enlin. The yellow cow spoke with furrowed brows. The interior decorations were even more magnificent. Within the registration hall, there were statues of the 10 Sun Tree War gods, all of whom were dignified and regal. Dark Eagle King, Dark Eagle King, Dark Eagle King. Wah, wah. A series of cheers sent waves of emotions surging through his heart. None of them were friendly, and even the weakest of them was a spirit-nurturing stage spirit beast. Even Enlin shuddered upon hearing this voice, and he couldn't help but turn his gaze toward the door as a petite figure began to appear in his field of vision. All of the surrounding living beings were standing near it, but they didn't feel any scorching sensation. Bai Ying's ears were extremely sensitive, and she explained with a smile, "We're professionals in disguising our disdain toward you." A human? Enlin's pupils contracted slightly. Mommy, why is it the Vermilion Bird Princess? I'm not playing anymore, okay? A huge bird sobbed with its wings folded in front of its head. What was even more surprising to Enlin was that almost all of the contestants had been reduced to trash. All of them were either in despair or howling with anguish. Right at this moment, a hearty roar resounded from afar. Ha ha ha! All of you trash, allow me, Grandpa Bear, who has won 7 battles a row, to let you know what a true expert is. Ha ha! GA? That's the main referee of the Vermilion Bird tribe, the Heavenly Flame Vermilion Bird. It's a mighty figure at the pinnacle of the return to void initial stage, the yellow cow explained. Mommy, why is she here? I'm not playing anymore. I'm forfeiting. Save me. Chapter 925. And Lin stared at the young woman before him with astonishment on his face. The aura of this Vermilion Bird princess was simply too powerful, and all of the powerful beings present felt as if they were going to lose for sure. He was a newbie in the arena, so he had no idea what was going on. He scanned the young woman with his divine sense to find that she seemed to be at the soul formation final stage. The 7-match winning bear lying in front of him was also at the soul formation final stage. If they were to fight to the death, there should be a chance that he could win, right? And Lin's brows furrowed in thought. At this moment, the crisp sound of footsteps sounded again. Clatter, clatter. A woman in a colorful dress swayed her slender waist as she made her way toward Enlin. Her features were clearly pure and innocent, but she forced herself to put on a seductive expression. Oh, what a rare animal. Humans travel all the way here to fight in the arena? And Lin looked into the young woman's bright eyes. Aren't you a human as well? Me? A smile suddenly appeared on the Vermilion Bird Princess face as she blinked at Enlin. Take a guess? Enlin pursed his lips. What's there to guess? You're going to be a dead man once the battle is over. The Vermilion Bird Princess stood rooted to the spot as she stared at Enlin with a slightly entranced expression. Enlin took advantage of the height difference to look down on the Vermilion Bird Princess and didn't back down in the slightest. All of the other powerful beings present burst into laughter upon hearing Enlin's words. Ha! This little brother sure is interesting. Where did he get his confidence from? Why does he think he's going to win? To be able to hear such a delightful joke before I die, I really have to thank this human's good intentions. Sigh, what an arrogant ****. A series of mocking and disdainful remarks reverberated through the air. In contrast, a vibrant smile appeared on the Vermilion Bird Princess face. It's been a long time since I've seen such a confident opponent. This is my goal in participating in the arena. She suddenly extended a slender finger to press down on Enlin's raised chin. I'm looking forward to my battle with you. I hope you won't disappoint me. Enlin rolled his eyes. The lines were too cliché, and he didn't want to say anything. However, the Vermilion Bird Princess was instantly displeased by the fact that Enlin dared to ignore her, and a powerful aura erupted forth, creating an overwhelming sense of pressure. Human, don't be so shameless. To Enlin, this kind of imposing manner that conformed to the norms had no effect at all. A golden light flashed across Enlin's eyes as he unleashed the divine might technique. As the saying goes, it is impolite not to reciprocate. Golden waves instantly enveloped the surroundings, as if a supreme god was overlooking all living beings. Boom, boom, boom. The participants either foamed at the mouth and fainted, or knelt on the ground with weak legs. All of the participants stared at the man in shock. Waves of shock surged in their hearts. How is this possible? This aura was actually emitted by that human. Enlin was also quite surprised. The Vermilion Bird Princess was swept up by the golden ripples, and her hair danced in the wind as a pair of dimples appeared on her porcelain-like features. She was still smiling, and there was no hint of fear on her face. The heavenly voice sounded again. Human, you really are very interesting. Enlin also looked at the young woman before him with a serious expression. You're also very interesting. I underestimated you. This young woman was not affected by his divine might technique in the slightest. Just as the two of them were locked in a stalemate, a gate suddenly opened, and a wave of raucous cheers erupted from outside. Now, Let's welcome participant number 1 and participant number 33. A loud voice traveled into the waiting area. Lin silently looked at the participant number in his hand. Participant number 33. He silently walked towards the arena. His opponent was a bird with a tiger's head and bat's wings. Its claws were sharp scythes. Participant number 1 is Ling the demonic bat from the dark shadow demonic cave of the southern heavenly wing nation, while participant number 33 is Linen from the kingdom of the 9 states, the host announced in a loud voice. Another wave of raucous cheers erupted from the spectator stands as soon as the announcement was made. It had to be said that under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, listening to these enthusiastic cheers would always make one's blood boil and ignite the desire to fight. What a rare sight. There's a human participating in the arena. This is the core region of the southern heavenly wing nation. Does a mere human think he can survive in the face of so many powerful beings of our tribe? What an arrogant fool. I remember that the last human was swallowed alive by a dragon-headed eagle, right? Wait, that human is called Linen? He's not in Lin from the 4-9 immortal sect, is he? Haha, I know your idol is in Lin, but it's wrong of you to force in Lin to be Linen. This is an illness that must be treated. That's right. Isn't Lin studying in the celestial court? Did he have nothing better to do than to come here to play? Even if he did come, with his flexing personality, would he not use his real name? It's just a coincidence. Amidst the discussions and cheers of the audience, the battle finally began. How? Human, I know you're very powerful, but you're going to die by my scythe. The Ling the demonic bat roared as it pounced toward Lin like a ghost. Boom! Sharp black blades burst out from its body, forming a space of 100 feet in radius that violently sliced through the air. It's the power of a domain. My God, this bat is at the half-step soul formation stage. Some of the spectators let loose cries of surprise upon seeing this. It was very exciting to see a half-step soul formation stage powerful being appear in the arena. The cheers became even more fervent, and many of the birds were even chanting the Ling, the demonic bat's name. The demonic bat was extremely fast, and its domain whistled through the air as its scythe blades tore through the air. In the face of such a powerful attack, Lin clenched his fist and threw a punch toward the demonic bat. He didn't use any spell techniques. Instead, he relied solely on the power of his divine body. The air began to twist and warp in that instant. The demonic bat's eyes widened, and it didn't even have a chance to react before the domain around its body was crushed by the power of the fist. Boom! An earth-shattering boom erupted. The earth also tremored violently as it cracked open from the power of the fist. As for the half-step soul formation stage demonic bat, it had already been pulverized into nothingness. All of the beasts stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before their eyes, and their cheers abruptly ceased as a peculiar silence fell. The battle had ended before it had even begun, which made them feel very uncomfortable. My God, the Ling the demonic bat was insta-killed. What a terrifying punch. The ground that had been enhanced by a spell formation was still cracked open. Right at this moment, the host's voice sounded again. The winner of the battle is Linen. Close to 100,000 spectators finally came to their senses, and their cheers erupted into the heavens. At this moment, they knew that this contestant by the name of Lin and was very powerful. He was definitely one of the hot favorites to win today's championship. The main judge, the heavenly flame vermilion bird, looked at Lin with a meaningful gaze. Contestant Lin's boxing skills have returned to the basics. That punch just now was only unleashed through the power of his physical body, but it combined his power, speed, and precision to instantly unleash the power of a soul formation final stage cultivator. He is most likely an extremely talented boxing master. The spectators erupted into cheers again upon hearing the main judge's commentary. Many of them were already yelling Lin's name, and some were even yelling Fist God Linen. And Lin's lips twitched slightly. What F*** King, extremely talented boxing master. Fist God Linen, I only unleashed a casual punch. Even though that was what he was thinking, he still put on a calm and collected facade. A nonchalant smile appeared on his face as he bowed to the enthusiastic spectators before departing from the stage. Now, let's welcome contestant number 2 and contestant number 34. Following the host's announcement, a young woman with a pair of clear and bright eyes and a pair of red high heels stepped onto the stage with a rhythmic rhythm. Deafening cheers erupted from all of the spectators as soon as she appeared. Many of the birds even screeched at the top of their lungs, causing the space around them to tremor violently. This was unprecedented cheering and unprecedented passion. Her appearance instantly created an uproar. An extremely unified voice erupted into the heavens. Sun Tree War God, Vermilion Bird Princess. Chapter 9:26. The Vermilion Bird Princess was the Sun Tree War God, and Lin was dumbstruck. How was that possible? He knew about the legends of the Sun Tree War Gods. They were mighty beings who had secured over 100 consecutive victories in the 10,000 years since the arena was first established. There were only 10 Sun Tree War Gods, and their statues were all displayed in the registration hall. There was no statue of the Vermilion Bird Princess. However, it seemed like everyone knew about the Vermilion Bird Princess except for him. Was there something wrong? And Lin walked toward the waiting area with a confused expression. The Vermilion Bird Princess was already making her way out of the waiting area. Not bad, Linen. The Vermilion Bird Princess patted Lin's shoulder in a friendly manner, and a vibrant smile appeared on her exquisite features as she praised Lin like an old friend. And Lin was curious. You're the Sun Tree War God? No. The Vermilion Bird Princess shook her head. Then why do they all call you the Sun Tree War God? And Lin was perplexed. The Vermilion Bird Princess turned to Lin with a peculiar expression. Brother, you really don't know my name? You don't understand anything, yet you came to the wrestling ring. You're really ambitious. I don't think there's a need to know anything. I'm going to be the final champion anyway. And Lin replied with an honest expression. Puff. The Vermilion Bird Princess couldn't help but burst into laughter. You're so interesting, Linen. I'm really looking forward to my match with you. I'm in a hurry, so I'll be going now. The skeletal falcon had tears streaming down its face. Don't worry, I can wait. You guys can continue chatting. And Lin immediately interjected. You still haven't answered my question. Haha, I'm not telling you. Guess. The Vermilion Bird Princess stuck out her tongue at Lin before turning to leave the arena. And Lin was so angry. The host's excited voice sounded. Our contestant number 34, the Vermilion Bird Princess, has participated in 99 arena battles in the past 10 years and secured 99 consecutive victories. Today will be her 100th arena battle. If she can become the final champion, our Sun Tree will welcome its 11th War God. Let us give the Vermilion Bird Princess our warmest applause. The crowd burst into cheers once again like a flash flood. Vermilion Bird Princess. Sun Tree War God. Victory. Vermilion Bird Princess and Lin. All right, there was no need to guess anymore. The host had the ability to assist. So the Vermilion Bird Princess was the war god of the arena. 99 consecutive victories was equivalent to 100 consecutive victories. So it was no exaggeration to say that she was a true war god. No wonder she was so popular. And Lin smiled faintly. What a pity. Her winning streak was about to end here. 99 wins in a row, all for naught. Could this be the will of the heavens? The Vermilion Bird Princess quickly calmed herself down and extended warm greetings to all of the spectators. Long time no see. Did you miss me? Looking forward to my battle? I love you guys, Wax. A vibrant smile appeared on the Vermilion Bird Princess' face as she yelled to the audience of close to 100,000. In the gladiator arena, the cheers of the audience lasted for a long time, and Lin stared speechlessly at the scenes unfolding before him. Holy F***CK. Why was the Vermilion Bird Princess entrance so down to earth? It felt like a celebrity was holding a concert. Couldn't she at least act like a war god? The skeletal falcon was extremely depressed. Never would it have thought that no one would pay attention to it in the final battle of its eagle life. It had been reduced to a mere blade of grass that served as a foil to a flower. Even the host had skipped out on its introduction. Soon, the referee announced the commencement of the battle. Vermilion Bird Princess, can you go easy on me? The skeletal falcon implored. A vibrant smile appeared on the Vermilion Bird Princess' face as she wagged a slender finger. That'll depend on your performance. And Lin's interest was piqued. He wanted to see just how powerful this Vermilion Bird Princess was. The skeletal falcon was a spirit beast at the spirit-nurturing pinnacle stage, so the Vermilion Bird Princess should be able to insta-kill it. However, Lin would be able to gauge her power the moment she attacked. Chirp! The skeletal falcon let loose a sharp screech before opening its beak to blast forth a series of sharp blades of wind. Each of the blades of wind was powerful enough to slice through steel with ease. The Vermilion Bird Princess stepped forward and evaded one of the blades of wind at an extremely fast speed before closing in on the skeletal falcon. The skeletal falcon's heart jolted with shock as it spread open its bony wings, upon which the white bones on its wings transformed into spears that shot toward the Vermilion Bird Princess at a speed that was almost invisible to the naked eye. The Vermilion Bird Princess twisted her agile body at an incredible angle to evade one spear after another. Her high heels cracked the ground beneath her feet as she abruptly flew toward the skeletal falcon. The skeletal falcon immediately turned its wings around in fear before slashing toward the Vermilion Bird Princess like blades. The Vermilion Bird Princess leaned back, and her slender waist curved like a water snake as she evaded the attack from her bony wings. Her colorful dress fluttered in the wind like a flower blossoming in the air. Her well-proportioned legs swept through the air in a graceful arc as her red high heels fell upon the skeletal falcon's head with a dangerous glint. Boom! The sound of something heavy crashing erupted. A red ripple proliferated forth, accompanied by the sound of bones shattering. The skeletal falcon's mouth gaped open, but it didn't even get a chance to make a sound before it fell to the ground. The winner is the Vermilion Bird Princess. The MC announced the result in a loud voice. Thunderous cheers erupted from the arena once again as everyone chanted the Vermilion Bird Princess name. Thank you for your support, everyone. How was my battle? Did everyone like it? Do you think I'm a graceful and adorable woman? The Vermilion Bird Princess interacted with the spectators with elation, and all of them were roaring their throats out. The atmosphere was extremely lively and didn't die down for a long time. This was a clean insta-kill. The spectators weren't surprised. Instead, they felt like this was only to be expected. However, Lin's expression was one of surprise. He wouldn't be surprised if it was an insta-kill under normal circumstances. However, the Vermilion Bird Princess insta-kill method made him draw a sharp intake of breath. This girl really knows how to have fun, Lin murmured to himself. The skeletal falcon was a powerful being at the spirit-nurturing pinnacle stage, but the Vermilion Bird Princess had repressed her energy fluctuations to the spirit-nurturing initial stage. Her strength, speed, vital energy utilization rate, all of her attributes had been repressed to around the spirit-nurturing initial stage. Most of the spectators couldn't see this, but Lin did. This meant that the Vermilion Bird Princess had repressed her energy fluctuations to the spirit-nurturing initial stage before insta-killing the skeletal falcon at the spirit-nurturing pinnacle stage. The reason why she was able to do this was due to her extremely precise control over the timing of the battle, her extraordinary battle instincts, and her battle style that was imbued with the laws of heaven and earth. In any case, she was very powerful. Her battle prowess was absolutely astonishing. This was a powerful being who liked to battle above her rank. What would it be like if she fought with her full power as a soul formation pinnacle stage cultivator? And Lin's expression became grave. This was an opponent worthy of his attention. After interacting with the spectators for a while, the Vermilion Bird Princess returned to the waiting area. She turned to Lin with a dainty smile. How about it? Do you regret coming to participate after seeing my battle? Are you scared? It's just defeating a spirit beast at the spirit-nurturing pinnacle stage. What's there to brag about? And Lin spoke with a disdainful expression. You really don't understand? The vermilion bird princess's bright eyes reflected his expression. Understand what? Enlin played dumb. The vermilion bird princess pursed her lips and ignored Enlin as she turned her head to the side and made her way to another corner. A lonely expression that no one could understand appeared on her face. Enlin chuckled coldly in his heart. He was going to show her what true power was during the actual battle and give her a huge surprise. Chapter 9:27. The elimination matches were still ongoing, and the atmosphere in the arena was still as lively as ever. Soon, there were only 32 contestants left from the 64 contestants. This time, Enlin's opponent was a flying python, which was even weaker than the Ling the demonic bat. It was only at the spirit-nurturing final stage, and it was slain by Enlin with a single punch. The vermilion bird princess opponent was a soul beast of the soul formation initial stage with a domain. She restricted her cultivation base to the spirit-nurturing final stage before crushing the soul beast's head with her high heels. Aside from the two of them, Big Bear, who had won 7 consecutive matches, was also very powerful and won very easily. However, its expression was quite unsightly, and its mountainous body would tremble involuntarily at the sight of the petite figure in the waiting room. The arena had to know the cultivation base of the contestants, and Enlin's cultivation base was naturally at the soul formation final stage. It was exactly because of this that he would be fighting against some other powerful beings. After a while, there were only 16 contestants left. In the quarterfinals, Enlin continued to crush his opponent with another simple punch, and his opponent was reduced to ashes. In the quarterfinals, Enlin's opponent was a huge bird of ice. The huge bird of ice was over 1,000 feet tall, and its appearance instantly transformed the entire arena into its exclusive territory. This was a powerful being of the soul formation intermediate stage. This bird was very powerful, and the spectators in the arena began to yell with excitement. There were also many people yelling the bird's name, so it was clear that this was a powerful being with a lot of popularity. Just as the spectators thought that an intense battle was about to ensue, Enlin unleashed another mundane punch. The power behind the punch caused the air to twist and warp, and a transparent, yet terrifying shockwave tore through the domain of wind and snow before landing on the huge bird of ice. Boom! Energy exploded, and even the protective barrier around the formation tremored violently. The huge bird of ice let loose a wail of anguish as its body shattered like glass, and white blood splattered through the air. It's here. Fist God Lin, Anne's return to simplicity punch. Insta-kill. Insta-kill again. Who would have thought that he would be able to insta-kill a soul beast of the soul formation intermediate stage with a single punch? Fist God Lin and fist techniques are not for show. He's so cool. Just as the audience was cheering to their heart's content, the old cow's face was full of worry. Shui Zhantian patted the cow's head upon seeing this. Why do you look so worried? Can't you see that my master is invincible and unstoppable? The yellow cow heaved a faint sigh. Brother Enlin is indeed very powerful. In any of the previous arenas, he would have a very good chance of becoming the champion. But he's facing the vermilion bird princess now. A disdainful expression appeared on Shui Zhantian's face. Isn't the vermilion bird princess at the soul formation pinnacle stage? He's just a living being that hasn't even reached the return of void stage. What the F***CK do I have to be afraid of? The vermilion bird princess is indeed not a return to void stage mighty figure. The yellow cow looked at the waiting room in the distance with a hint of awe and veneration in its eyes. But she has killed return to void stage mighty figures in the arena. Shui Zhantian. Unknowingly, there were only 4 contestants left in the arena. The sun had already set into the clouds, and the red light of the setting sun shone down upon the arena, giving it a bleak and tragic appearance. The atmosphere in the arena reached a second climax. This was a battle between Fist God Lin and the Black Wind Bear Tyrant, who had won 7 consecutive victories. That's right, the Black Wind Bear Tyrant was the guy who had referred to himself as Big Bear. Even though he referred to himself as Big Bear, He had been scared witless by the vermilion bird princess and had completely shamed the arena champion. Roar. Linen, before I battle the vermilion bird princess, let me have a good time. I'll let you know how terrifying the arena's winning streak champion is. The bear tyrant cackled as all of the black fur on its body stood on end, and a powerful aura swept forth. And Lin had no interest in talking to weaklings, and he launched an almighty punch. It's here. Fist God Lin, Anne's return to simplicity punch. All of the spectators let loose cries of surprise as they stared at the human's fist with wide eyes. A devastating fist projection hurtled toward the bear tyrant with unstoppable force. The bear tyrant let loose an almighty roar as it unleashed its power at the soul formation pinnacle stage. Bursts of black light soared into the sky, making it appear as if it were an ancient fiend celestial. Its claws were enshrouded in raging black winds as it viciously slammed toward Lin's fist projection. Boom! The collision of energy caused the earth to crumble as the power of black wind surged throughout the entire arena. The bear tyrant stumbled back a few steps as blood trickled from the corner of its lips, and an expression of shock appeared on its face. It was blocked. Fist God Lin, Anne's return to simplicity punch, was blocked by the bear tyrant. This is going to be an earth-shattering battle, the MC announced with excitement. All of the spectators were also getting excited. In their eyes, Lin Anne's fists were invincible. In the past, he had been able to defeat a child with a single punch, but now he had encountered an opponent who could block his fists. As expected of the Black Wind Bear Tyrant, who has won 7 consecutive victories, Fist God Lin and is in danger now. I wonder if Fist God Lin and still has any energy left after unleashing that terrifying punch. If he has overexerted himself, then he really is going to lose. Humph. The Black Wind Bear Tyrant is the champion of our arena after winning 7 consecutive victories. He won't be defeated that easily. I'm rooting for the Bear Tyrant. Go, Bear Tyrant. Cheers and heated discussions immediately erupted. The Black Wind Bear Tyrant took a deep breath before abruptly thumping its chest. Linen, you really are a rare, powerful being. I'm fired up. It's my turn now. I'm going to dig out your heart, hold it in my hands, and devour it. And Lin's lips twitched. Was there something wrong with this black bear? Roar. The Black Wind Bear Tyrant let loose an almighty roar as its massive body instantly broke through the sound barrier. It spread open its paws, which were imbued with extremely terrifying power, and at the same time, the word "the world" appeared on its palm. Bear dominates the world. The bear paw crashed down upon Lin, and gale force winds swept through the area within a radius of over a kilometer. Even the ground that had been reinforced by spell formations couldn't help but cave in, and Lin heaved a faint sigh as he looked at the oncoming paw. A golden lotus insignia flashed on his forehead, and a golden light imbued with the power of the earth appeared on his fist as he unleashed an almighty punch. The golden light tore through the black wind like a sharp sword, and the power of the vast earth crashed down upon the bear tyrant's massive paw. Boom! The collision of energy caused the entire arena to tremor violently. Immediately afterward, the projection of the golden fist tore through the bear paw before crashing into the Black Wind Bear Tyrant's chest. The bear tyrant let loose a blood-curdling cry as the golden fist caved in its mountainous body, upon which a golden light erupted from its body. The fist seemed to be imbued with the power of an entire continent, and it crashed down upon its body in a frenzy. Then, right before the incredulous eyes of close to 100,000 spectators, the bear tyrant's body was pulverized by the fist, leaving behind only chunks of flesh that fell to the ground. Deathly silence ensued. All of the spectators stared at the human male on the arena with astonishment on their faces. What happened to the intense battle? Why was it insta-killed again? That's the bear tyrant at the soul formation pinnacle stage. How could he die so easily? Just how strong is that Lin? Lin Anne's fist technique is imbued with some kind of extremely terrifying power. He is truly deserving of the title of Fist God. At this moment, the host's excited voice also began to ring out. It's here. In the nick of time, Fist God Lin unleashed a punch that transcends beyond return to simplicity. This is the Transcendence Fist that contains the pinnacle of fist techniques, a punch that transcends beyond the soul formation realm. The host once again defined in Lin's fist technique and used all kinds of bad *SS words to praise him to the heavens. The audience listened excitedly, and Lin couldn't be bothered with all of this. He wasn't a vain person. He merely bowed to the close to 100,000 spectators before his confident and domineering voice pierced through the air and fell upon the ears of all of the beasts present. What bullsh *T bear dominates the world? It's nothing compared to my fist dominates the world. The entire arena fell silent for a moment before erupting into raucous cheers and screams. The name of Fist God Lin and had reverberated throughout the heavens. Chapter 928. And Lin walked down from the battlefield amid raucous cheers from the spectators. The Vermilion Bird Princess was battling another soul formation, final stage, two-headed blue crow. And Lin became an onlooker as he carefully observed the Vermilion Bird Princess battle. This time, the Vermilion Bird Princess restricted her cultivation base to the soul formation initial stage, and her movement techniques were extremely agile and graceful. The two-headed blue crow had 2 heads and 4 eyes, but was still unable to see the Vermilion Bird Princess movement techniques. The blue crow spat out streaks of corrosive blue light from its mouth, but the Vermilion Bird Princess evaded all of them. As the Vermilion Bird Princess closed in on it, the twin-headed blue crow had no choice but to unleash an area of effect spell technique that expended a large amount of energy, filling the space within a radius of several hundred meters with blue liquid. Splash! The blue liquid enshrouded the blue crow like a ball of water. This liquid was terrifyingly corrosive. Even if a soul beast in the deity transformation tier accidentally touched it, its body would be instantly melted into a skeleton. The Vermilion Bird Princess stopped running with a resigned expression. Oi, if you want to fight, then fight. What's the point of hiding like a turtle? The two-headed blue crow stared at the Vermilion Bird Princess with shock and horror on its face as a few pillars of water shot forth like sharp swords from the blue liquid. The Vermilion Bird Princess evaded the blue crow's water pillars expressionlessly. It was quite clear that these attacks weren't meant to be. The Vermilion Bird Princess pursed her lips. The two-headed blue crow didn't dare to move anymore as it tried its best to maintain its defensive techniques. Everyone fell silent again. The two of them faced off, and neither of them dared to make a move. The atmosphere was extremely tense, and it felt like it was about to congeal. After what seemed like an eternity. You continue. I'm going to take a break. The Vermilion Bird Princess yawned and constructed a lounge chair out of blue streamers. She lay down on the chair and looked at the two-headed blue crow with a leisurely expression. All of the spectators were quite displeased to see this. How had a battle devolved into this state? Many of the spectators couldn't help but curse at the two-headed blue crow, saying that it was a disgrace to the entire bird tribe. They had never seen a coward that only defended and didn't attack. As for the Vermilion Bird Princess, who didn't choose to attack, she was so adorable, so she naturally chose to forgive. The twin-headed blue crow felt extremely stifled. Damn it, it's not like you were the ones fighting a life-and-death duel on the battlefield. It's easy for you to say that. If I really rush over recklessly, I will die. It had not given up hope. It wanted to win. The reason why the twin-headed blue crow went all out in defense was not because it was afraid, but because it wanted to find a flaw in the young lady's defense during this period of time and launch a sudden attack, catching her off guard. It was impossible to face her head-on. Only a surprise attack would have a chance of victory and end the girl's terrifying 99-win record. As long as it could kill the Vermilion Bird Princess, its reputation would skyrocket. It would become a being that was on par with the Sun Tree War God. Perhaps he would even be able to take a step further in his Tao realm and reach the return to Void stage. Then, it would look for Enlin from the Celestial Court and become a celestial beast that was revered by tens of thousands of beasts. Yes, The desperate situation in front of it was only a crucial step for it to reach the peak of its glorious life. "Are you tired, silly blue crow?" A clear and melodious voice sounded. The vermilion bird princess was lying leisurely on a recliner constructed from colorful silk, and a sly smile appeared on her face. She stretched lazily upon seeing the twin-headed blue crow's lack of response. Her exquisite and well-proportioned legs swayed slightly as her red high heels left the ground. The twin-headed blue crow's eyes narrowed upon seeing this. This was a good opportunity. The vermilion bird princess expression was lazy, and her body had left the ground without any external support. This was the perfect opportunity for her to strike. The twin-headed blue crow was just about to strike when it suddenly felt a chill run down its spine. What's going on?" It twisted its neck slightly. Crack splat. The twin-headed blue crow's two heads crashed to the ground, and blood gushed forth like fountains. The two heads that tumbled to the ground still had expressions of horror and indignation on their faces. It had woken up from its dream. Reality was so cruel, and it didn't even have a chance to strike. The mouths of close to 100,000 spectators gaped open upon seeing this, and they were unable to disguise their astonishment. They saw a blue ribbon that was as sharp as a blade within the twin-headed blue crow's liquid domain. The blue ribbon had shot forth from the ground at an extremely fast speed, and it had appeared just as the twin-headed blue crow was staring intently at the vermilion bird princess. "What on earth happened?" "It's a chair. Look, that ribbon extended into the ground from the corner of the vermilion bird princess chair, then pierced through the ground and into the twin-headed blue crow's domain. This move is too amazing." Both the method of her sneak attack and the timing of her sneak attack were perfect. The vermilion bird princess used her lazy and helpless expression to attract the twin-headed blue crow's attention, and the moment she revealed an opening to the twin-headed blue crow was the moment when the killing intent appeared. What a spectacular move! As expected of the vermilion bird princess, she will definitely be crowned the Sun Tree War God tonight. She will receive supreme glory. All of the spectators became extremely excited, and they began to discuss fervently among themselves as they cheered for the Sun Tree War God in their hearts. The twin-headed blue crow's body fell to the ground. As the star of the battle, the vermilion bird princess stood up with a smile on her face and wrapped the blue ribbon around her left arm before skipping over to interact with the spectators again. "Hey, big sisters and big brothers, were you all astonished by my performance? Do you like this battle? What's the name of this move? Let's call it cute muddling through. Cute means acting cute. Didn't you guys think the vermilion bird princess battle style was very cute?" The light of the setting sun shone down on the young woman's face, and her bright and pure smile seemed to have a sense of harmony in the cruel and bloody arena. "Hee. Do you like the vermilion bird princess? If you like me, then praise me more. The vermilion bird princess has excellent hearing, so I can hear everything you're saying. Hi, friend from the West. Where are you cheering for me?" And Lin massaged his brows as he looked at the energetic young woman. One adorable young woman. What should he do? To be honest, if Lin had to kill a ferocious-looking beast, he definitely wouldn't show any mercy. In fact, he would do it in a very direct and efficient manner. However, he just couldn't bring himself to kill such an adorable young woman. Perhaps it was because he didn't want to destroy some beautiful things. That's right, this was a world where appearances mattered a lot. Only perverts would want to destroy beautiful things when they saw them. Any normal person would want to protect it and cherish it. And Lin calmed himself down as a determined expression appeared on his face. He was a little reluctant, but if only one person could make it out of this arena alive, then they couldn't blame him for killing her. He was going to become a champion of this arena. Chapter 929. The vermilion bird princess was on the verge of tears. Can you be a little more normal? A little more normal in your fighting style. There were only a few spots on the spectator stands that were lit up by flames. All of the spectators were dumbstruck. Bam! Shockwaves swept forth for several kilometers. Popularity didn't give him any buffs, so all he had to do was defeat the vermilion bird princess fair and square. The vermilion bird princess suddenly charged toward Lin at an extremely fast speed. She let loose a cry of surprise and was just about to retreat when a powerful hand grabbed onto her leg, following which an indescribably terrifying force erupted. Never would she have thought that Lin would do something like this to such a delicate flower. "Can I?" Lin asked. Lin then repeated his previous actions, which were to smash the vermilion bird princess leg into the ground with infinite force. Even though night had fallen, the atmosphere at the arena had reached its climax. What a terrifying fist technique! And Lin turned to the vermilion bird princess with a peculiar expression. "Now let's welcome the two warriors." The battle that everyone was looking forward to the most was finally about to begin. The power that Lin had displayed, as well as the special significance of this final battle, prompted the MC to introduce Lin. There was no tragedy like what had happened to the vermilion bird princess' previous opponent, who was completely ignored. The MC's impassioned voice sounded, "This is the most anticipated battle in the past 10 years. No, it should be the most anticipated battle in the past 1,000 years. This battle will decide whether our sun tree will be able to give birth to a true war god." The vermilion bird princess' clothes were disheveled, and she was just about to resist when the hand that had grabbed onto her leg exerted a terrifying force, and her body was flung into the air before crashing heavily onto the ground. However, this was very slow for Lin. Boom! This idiot is suppressing his cultivation base to the soul formation intermediate stage. Everyone, the finals of the arena are about to begin. The vermilion bird princess' expression shifted, and she abruptly stomped the ground before leaping into the air like a bird. A golden light surged forth, and the terrifying power of the earth within a radius of over a kilometer cracked open. The ground shook violently, and a ghastly hole appeared in it. The vermilion bird princess is so adorable. How could he do something like that? Rumble. The vermilion bird princess' pupils contracted. Her attack, which was powerful enough to crush the head of a mighty figure at the soul formation pinnacle stage, seemed to have struck something extremely sturdy and was unable to penetrate any further. Holy sh*T, my vermilion bird princess. After being stunned for a few seconds, the blue ribbon slashed at Lin's arm like the sharpest blade. The mountain quaking fist and the golden ribbon collided, resulting in a deafening explosion. "Beast! Release that girl!" The golden lotus on Lin's forehead flashed, and a golden light instantly enveloped his fist. At the same time, the power of his divine body erupted forth as he launched a fist toward the vermilion bird princess. 100% mountain quaking fist. The vermilion bird princess drew a sharp intake of breath as she glared at Lin with shock in her eyes. This is the first time I've encountered an opponent who has made such a rude request. And Lin felt a stab of pain, and he instinctively slammed the vermilion bird princess into the ground again. Rumble. The earth tremored as a massive crater appeared on the ground. Even the blue sea continent on the 5th level could hear the raucous cheers and raucous roars. Vermilion bird princess. The vermilion bird princess was being ravaged by Lin, and all of the spectators erupted into an uproar. Even though Lin had performed very well and garnered a lot of fans, most of the spectators were still chanting the vermilion bird princess name, so the entire arena was filled with the chants of Sun Tree War, God Vermilion Bird Princess. Seeing as you're still suppressing your power like an idiot, then I'm going to make your death less painful. The vermilion bird princess harumphed. I'm a natural beauty, and I'm completely different from a monster. You've gone too far, and I'm not going to forgive you. Come on, I'm going to beat the crap out of you. There were no flames set up anywhere else, including the battleground within the spell formation. All of the beast tribe powerful beings had very good eyesight, and under the illumination of the moon, the space around them wasn't actually very dark. It only added a hint of coldness and killing intent. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the vermilion bird princess flipped around, and her red high heels tore through the air with a sharp screech. The tip of her high heels glowed with a terrifying red light of death, and it left a trail of blood in its wake before landing on Enlin's face. The Vermilion Bird Princess was even more popular than the 10 Sun Tree War gods in the arena. It was clearly impossible for Enlin to surpass the Vermilion Bird Princess in terms of popularity through a single battle. Night fell, and the purple leaves on the trees glowed faintly. Enlin's heart jolted. So adorable. Will the Vermilion Bird Princess create the legend of 100 consecutive victories and ascend to the position of Sun Tree War God? Or will Fist God Lin and break the Vermilion Bird Princess 99 consecutive victories? Everything will be decided in this battle, and Lin didn't really care about all of this. This was the first time he had encountered an opponent who was actively suppressing their power in a battle of life and death. To be honest, this was quite a unique experience. The sky was littered with stars, and the pristine white moonlight shone down upon the arena, creating a layer of silvery white light. The Vermilion Bird Princess was also knocked flying for several hundred meters, and a few strands of her hair were plastered to her delicate face. Her breathing accelerated, and she appeared to be in quite a sorry state. 9 different colored ribbons revolved around her body, and a faint light emanated from them, making her appear as if she were a celestial maiden under the moon. I'm going to kill Linen. The Vermilion Bird Princess' heart jolted with shock, and the golden ribbon around her waist suddenly began to move. It revolved in front of her to form a circular barrier. The Vermilion Bird Princess wasn't much better off, and she was a little dazed from the impact. What thick skin! Ow, ow! An extremely powerful aura began to surge from her body as she spoke. Enlin's figure appeared before her, and his fist struck thin air. The earth tremored violently again. Enlin gripped tightly onto the Vermilion Bird Princess calf, and a cruel smile appeared on his face as he slammed the Vermilion Bird Princess toward the ground. The Vermilion Bird Princess was just about to use her phantom-like movement techniques to evade Enlin's attack, but she discovered that Enlin's fists seemed to be everywhere, and she had nowhere to run. Enlin heaved a faint sigh. I really can't bear to kill such an adorable young woman like you. How about you transform into a monster so that it'll be easier for me to kill you? Come on. The Vermilion Bird Princess crossed her arms. I refuse. Linen, I've been waiting for this battle with you. Her body created a massive crater in the ground, which had been reinforced by the spell formation. Boom! The MC's voice fell, and the entire venue erupted into raucous cheers again. The Vermilion Bird Princess stared at Enlin with a pair of bright eyes. In the next instant, Enlin disappeared on the spot. Chapter 9:30. Enlin wore a cold expression at the sight of the Vermilion Bird Princess' pitiful expression. He wasn't going to go easy on her. How was he going to get out of this battle if he didn't fight to the death? How was he going to enter the top 3 levels and find the Guardian of the Divine Tree if he didn't become the champion? Enlin grabbed onto the Vermilion Bird Princess calf and was just about to smash her into the ground like a towel. However, a sharp orange light flashed through the Vermilion Bird Princess' eyes, and her bound leg bent as she kicked toward Enlin's arm with her other leg. An orange blade projection suddenly appeared on her red high heel, which struck a certain meridian node in Enlin's arm. The extreme sharpness of the blade even tore a series of tiny cracks into the air. The orange light exploded, and an extremely numb sensation finally made Enlin's joints shudder. The Vermilion Bird Princess took advantage of this opportunity to quickly evade Enlin's demonic claws before retreating for over a kilometer. What terrifying defensive prowess! If a normal return to Void Stage Mighty Figure was struck by that attack, their entire arm would have been severed, but you didn't even get a single scratch on your arm. The Vermilion Bird Princess' expression became extremely grave as rainbow colors suddenly began to swirl around her eyes. At the same time, a series of rainbow lines began to appear on her cheeks. Boom! An extremely terrifying aura erupted into the sky. An astonishing aura materialized into substantial waves that surged in all directions, and any weak living beings that dared to approach her would be pulverized by her terrifying aura. It's here. The Vermilion Bird Princess, second form. Some spectators suddenly let loose cries of surprise. 10 years ago, The vermilion bird princess unleashed her second form and slew a celestial maiden at the pinnacle of the return to void initial stage. It was also during that battle that she became the 11th war god in the hearts of all living beings on the Sun Tree. Who would have thought that Lin would be able to force the vermilion bird princess to unleash her second form? Lin can die with no regrets after this battle. The fact that he was able to battle the vermilion bird princess in her second form will definitely spread throughout the entire southern heavenly wing nation. It's a pity Fist God Lin is going to fall here. There were also many in the audience who expressed their regret for Lin's experience. However, Lin was very calm on the stage. There was a faint excitement in his eyes. The vermilion bird princess was finally using her full power. Pinnacle stage of the soul formation stage versus pinnacle stage of the soul formation stage. This was what a real battle looked like. And Lin could barely be considered a soul formation pinnacle stage cultivator, as his next cultivation stage was the return to void stage. The vermilion bird princess was the most powerful soul formation stage cultivator he had ever seen, and her control over her own power was absolutely astonishing. If it weren't for the fact that he had so many hacks, he wouldn't be able to guarantee that he would be able to defeat the vermilion bird princess. The two of them confronted each other on the battlefield. "My little princess, how did you become a little tabby cat?" And Lin said with some amusement. The vermilion bird princess gritted her teeth and glowered at Lin with a ferocious expression. "Very well, Linen, you've successfully angered me. I'll tear you apart now." She abruptly stomped the ground as she spoke, and her body shot forth like a bolt of lightning, appearing right before Lin in the blink of an eye before kicking toward Lin's crotch. What a vicious attack! Lin had already unleashed his divine inspection technique, and he shifted to the side to evade the orange light-enhanced high heel before unleashing a punch at the same time. The vermilion bird princess moved like a rabbit and instantly evaded Lin's punch. At the same time, a red ribbon shot forth from her right hand, which wound itself around Lin's arm like a spirit snake. "That's the arm." A look of hatred appeared on the vermilion bird princess' face as she recalled the scene of Lin's arm grabbing on her leg and pummeling her, and a crimson light flashed through her eyes. "I'll start with that arm." The red ribbon glowed with a brilliant light, and Lin could sense an extremely scorching energy surging toward him. Boom! Scorching energy erupted from the ribbon, and a crimson pillar of flames rose into the sky before proliferating outward. The scorching temperatures melted the ground within a radius of over a kilometer, and even space itself began to twist and warp. Everything in the wake of the wave of flames was incinerated. Shui Zhantian stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before his eyes from the spectator stands. What a terrifying attack! Scorching heaven and scorching earth, incinerating all things. This level of power can even incinerate a return to void stage mighty figure to death. The yellow cow also wore a forlorn expression. "Sigh, it's a pity that Big Brother Lin is a freakish cultivator." Many of the spectators were staring intently at the center of the battle. There, the flames gradually dissipated. Two figures began to appear. "He's not dead. Linen isn't dead. My God, he managed to block the vermilion bird princess attack." All of the spectators began to let loose cries of surprise. The vermilion bird princess was also astonished to find that a section of her ribbon had been incinerated, and Lin's figure began to appear. He wore a suit of four-colored divine flame armor, and he stood on the spot like a monarch of flames, completely unscathed. "You want to compete with me in flames? You're still too young." He extended a finger, and crimson feathers of flames fell from the sky before materializing into arrows. First stage of the wings of true fire, Crimson God Arrow. The Crimson God Arrow was constructed from feathers, but it had the holy vermilion flame as its core. The two of them combined as one, and the terrifying temperatures emanating from them made even the space around them tremble. The hairs on the vermilion bird princess body stood on end, and she was just about to unleash a phantom-like movement technique to evade the attack when the ground beneath her feet suddenly became inky black. At the same time, a terrifying gravitational force descended upon her body, and even her bones began to crack and crack. Her body faltered. Abyssal gravity. And Lin controlled the darkness with one hand as he pointed his other toward the vermilion bird princess. The crimson god arrow left a scorching, twisted trajectory in the air before stabbing toward the vermilion bird princess chest. The golden ribbon around the vermilion bird princess waist instantly formed a barrier in front of her, and the crimson arrow struck the golden ribbon, upon which a sharp, screeching sound erupted. In the end, the white holy flames within the barrier melted the golden ribbon. "Move for me," a clear and melodious voice rang out. The blue ribbon around the vermilion bird princess' ankles allowed her to break free from the abyssal shackles at this critical moment, thereby shifting her body slightly. In that instant, the white holy flames tore through the air before puncturing the vermilion bird princess' shoulder. A hole appeared on her colorful dress, and an inky black that was scorched into her delicate skin. The vermilion bird princess hurtled back in retreat again. This time, and Lin wasn't going to wait for her to regroup, and he immediately pounced toward her. All of the spectators let loose cries of surprise upon seeing the vermilion bird princess injured in her second form. The intensity of the battle made them forget how to speak. Only a small portion of the spectators couldn't help but grumble. Wasn't Fist God Lin and supposed to use his fists? Why was he so good at using flames? No one replied to them. Everyone was watching the battle with bated breath. The vermilion bird princess harumphed lightly upon seeing and Lin charging toward her, and the purple ribbon behind her erupted with a brilliant light before exploding into a purple mist that enshrouded the entire space. Illusionary mist. Even a returned to void stage mighty figure would be struck by this extremely powerful illusionary mist, and their consciousness would be damaged as a result. A faint smile appeared on the vermilion bird princess' lips as she prepared to investigate the situation. A calm voice suddenly sounded from behind her. "This illusionary mist is not bad, but you might not believe me." A searing pain shot through the vermilion bird princess' body as the inky black sword blade punctured through her heart, staining her crimson blood. "The power of my consciousness can crush the vast majority of return to void stage mighty figures. I can detect any illusionary mist trapping spell formation with my consciousness." And Lin appeared behind the vermilion bird princess with a triumphant smile on his face. "Goodbye, little tabby cat." Chapter 9:31. The power of the red lotus passed through his body. There's nothing we can do about it. Only one of the participants in the dueling ring can survive. And Lin heaved a forlorn sigh as the power within his body flowed into the evil-slaying sword in his right hand. The most violent power exuded from the blade of the sword, and it was about to sever the woman's vitality. A tearing pain came from Lin's waist, and his body was kicked to change direction again. Close to 100,000 spectators witnessed an incredulous scene. The vermilion bird princess had her heart punctured by Lin An's sword. She flipped her body sideways, and her colorful dress looked like a blooming, colorful lotus in the air. A red glow arrived first, and her calf actually flew towards Lin's crotch in an extremely vicious manner. The fairy artifact, Little Red Boots, exploded with waves of celestial might. And Lin felt a sharp pain between his eyebrows, and he quickly retreated. Even with the formation, the aura emanating from the vermilion bird princess is more fearsome than the patriarchs of my sect. The white and black ribbons around the vermilion bird princess body had already intertwined to form a spear exuding extremely terrifying energy fluctuations, which flew toward Lin's glabella. And Lin knew he had won as soon as he plunged his evil-slaying sword into the vermilion bird princess' heart. Doesn't Fist God Lin use his fists? Why is he so good at using a sword? And Lin's body of the war god was able to remain unscathed even in the face of attacks from return to void intermediate stage mighty figures. However, it was showing signs of crumbling under the relentless barrage of attacks, and Lin sensed the energy rippling from the red high heels, and his face twitched. Not only did she self-destruct, she even used a high-grade immortal weapon. That's too much. Little red boots, activate. Her breasts rose and fell slightly, blood staining her colorful dress. Her heart, which had been pierced by the sword, was miraculously healing quickly. Her breathing was as calm as mist. Unlin had already activated his divine inspection technique and was able to see all of his enemies' weaknesses. The power seemed to be able to pierce through the entire world. Unlin was furious. Rumble. His lower abdomen was severely injured. Blood surged within his body, and his body flew back like a cannonball before the vermilion bird princess disappeared again. The mist confusion spell was shattered, and the purple smoke dissipated into nothingness. The violent and terrifying energy transformed into a shockwave that destroyed the arena beyond recognition. The grand array also trembled incessantly. The red wings of the red high heels stretched for thousands of meters. They almost covered the entire gladiator arena. The overwhelming aura rippled through the air. The red high heels also unleashed the power of a high-tier immortal artifact. The wings on her shoes shone with a crimson light. With a flap, the power behind the shoes seemed to have doubled. You sure are cruel. The vermilion bird princess fingers were already gripping onto the evil-slaying sword as blood trickled down the corners of her lips. Sizzle. The vermilion bird princess didn't give a direct answer. Instead, a faint smile appeared on her face. Guess. And Lin could not hold it in any longer and spat out a mouthful of blood. The vermilion bird princess turned around, and a peculiar divine seal appeared on her forehead as an even more terrifying aura erupted forth. Not only in Lin, but even 100,000 beasts outside the battlefield were finding it difficult to breathe, as if they were suffocating. And Lin's eyelids twitched. Instinctively, a white light flashed in his eyes. All of the high-rank immortal artifacts were extremely fearsome. It was quite clear that Lin had already earned the acknowledgement of some of the powerful beings in the bird tribe through his battles. She bent her legs and kicked in Lin's lower abdomen. In next instant, she disappeared on the spot. The vermilion bird princess voice was pure and pleasant to the ear. Oi oi, are you a fake soul formation stage cultivator? And Lin drew a sharp intake of breath as he felt the boundless divine might radiating from the vermilion bird princess body. Pwah! This must be her trump card. What a powerful being she is. How could this be? The vermilion bird princess lost? Boom, 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 my god. The vermilion bird princess was able to slaughter mighty figures at the pinnacle of the return to void initial stage in her second form. Just how powerful is she in her third form? Wah, I don't care. Linen killed the vermilion bird princess in cold blood. I'm not going to forgive him. PFFF. A sharp screeching sound erupted. Spatial ripples surged through the air, and the vermilion bird princess instantly appeared before him. Even Lin, who had activated his divine inspection technique in bullet time, found it difficult to track her attack trajectory. She was too close and too fast. Third form? The vermilion bird princess has a third form. At this moment, Shui Zhantian was still cheering for Lin with idioms. All of the spectators were completely astonished by the scenes unfolding before their eyes. The spear chased after Lin relentlessly for over a kilometer, all the way to the edge of the protective spell formation. Only then did it run out of power and split up into two streaks of black and white silk, which revolve around the vermilion bird princess body like spirit snakes. He had no choice. Under those circumstances, that was all he could do. Hee, I'm going to make you regret what you did to me. The vermilion bird princess narrowed her eyes with a dangerous light flashing through them. Red Lotus Mantra. And Lin felt like his jaw had been shattered, and his entire body flew into the sky. The space around the blade projection had already crumbled, and the power of destruction and chaos formed a tornado that pulverized the earth below. It's over. Fist God Lin finally managed to self-detonate, but the vermilion bird princess still has a third form. Is this the end of his life? The vermilion bird princess life force was fading away, and there was no turning back. Roar. I think Linen is a good choice. Only a sissy would like the vermilion bird princess. Real men should like tough guys like Linen. She tapped her foot lightly into the air, and her body slowly floated into the air. The 9 rainbows around her intertwined to form a pair of 9-colored wings of light, and the divine seal on her glabella exuded an extremely terrifying might, making her appear as if she were a goddess. How the F***ck could he tolerate this? Red Lotus. It was also at this moment that an extreme sense of danger suddenly engulfed his entire body. He knew that if he didn't retreat, his divine body really would be torn apart by the spiral spear. At the center of the battlefield, the vermilion bird princess bent her left leg slightly, and her red high heels tapped the air a few times as red ripples surged through the entire battlefield. The vermilion bird princess body shuddered, and she threw up a mouthful of blood. Enlin's divine flame bead could summon a divine flame golden dragon, and Su Xiaolan's dragon sparrow sword was imbued with the power of the true dragon and the phoenix. This ordinary-looking high heels was definitely no ordinary woman. Boom! Spatial ripples swept toward him like water, and he slashed his sword to the side without any hesitation. A black sword projection flashed through the air, tearing the earth several kilometers away. The vermilion bird princess appeared before Enlin again, and their eyes met. In the blink of an eye, he stopped his momentum with great difficulty and switched to a more comfortable position and angle. A piece of colorful cloth fell from the air, and the vermilion bird princess appeared before Enlin with an unhappy expression. Even though she had used an exceptional movement technique to evade Enlin's sword strike, her beautiful dress was in tatters. You're the first opponent to force me to use my third form, and you're also the most powerful soul formation stage cultivator I've ever seen. In the spectator stands, the birds were shocked once again. Fake, it's all fake. The vermilion bird princess is so powerful. How could she lose? Enlin didn't think that his attack would be evaded. At this moment, a terrifying force erupted from his chin, and he discovered that the vermilion bird princess had already kicked his chin with overwhelming force. In the next instant, the vermilion bird princess appeared behind Enlin and kicked him in the spine. She unleashed a relentless barrage of kicks that were invisible to the naked eye, shocking everyone present. Her speed was extremely fast, and it was as if she were piercing through space. Red shockwaves erupted from her kicks, which expanded like red lotus flowers, shattering space and causing the ground to tremor for over a kilometer. Boom! Another terrifying energy fluctuation erupted, and a pair of crimson wings suddenly sprouted from the vermilion bird princess high heels, which resonated with the surrounding space. Red lotus flowers danced in the air. The vermilion bird princess flashed to his side again before unleashing a kick toward the side of his waist. She knew that Enlin was a man who was going to F***ck the heavens, so there was no way he was going to lose here. An indescribable power suddenly erupted. It was as if all of the injuries that she had sustained from before had erupted at the same time, and it was as if all of the attacks that the vermilion bird princess had unleashed were to pave the way for this final attack. The black and white spiral spear struck Enlin's glabella, upon which dazzling black and white energy erupted forth. Chapter 932. In the eyes of the spectators. This was the vermilion bird princess' final attack. It was as if a gargantuan red lotus had fallen from the sky before crashing into Enlin's body. The red light pierced through his body, and blood sprayed through the air. In the end, a terrifying explosion of energy swept through the entire arena. Red energy filled the entire space, pulverizing everything within it. Boom! The arena began to tremor violently, and cracks even began to appear. Close to 100,000 beasts were trembling in fear. If it weren't for the protection of the spell formation, all of them would have been pulverized by the shock waves of the battle. Oh my God! Is this really a battle between creatures in the divine transformation realm? That's insane. Even the protective spell formation set up by our mythological beasts has been shattered. Even a battle between Return to Void stage mighty figures shouldn't be this insane, right? Those two really are monsters. I didn't think that I would be able to witness the vermilion bird princess in her third form. How is Fist God Lennon? He's not dead, is he? After witnessing Enlin's power, all of the birds didn't dare to speculate anymore. All of them stared intently at the battlefield. The energy dissipated, and the vermilion bird princess stood in midair with her colorful wings spread open. Her features were a little pale, clearly having expended a lot of her energy to unleash that attack. There was not a single patch of flat ground on the arena, and there were cracks and rubble all over the place. The ground, which had been reinforced by the spell formation, had caved in like an upside-down pot lid. Lin lay in the center of the crater and coughed up blood relentlessly as he stared intently at the woman in the sky. He's not dead. Fist God Lin is not dead. All of the spectators let loose cries of surprise. The vermilion bird princess brows perked up slightly. You sure are difficult to deal with. And Lin didn't say anything. He merely lay on the ground and stared up at the woman in the sky. After a while, he said, "Little cat, you're naked." Everyone fell silent. Vermilion bird princess, all of the spectators. The fluttering red ribbon silently wrapped around her slender, fair legs, blocking in Lin's line of sight. The vermilion bird princess gritted her teeth as she glowered at the man on the ground. Is this why you're lying on the ground? Of course not. I'm just reminding you out of goodwill. And Lin said very seriously, and then jumped up from the ground. The vermilion bird princess was fuming with rage, and she immediately pounced toward Lin again. The divine talisman on her forehead flashed, and the space beneath her feet rippled. Then, she disappeared on the spot. And Lin's aura skyrocketed, breaking through a certain limit. Origin energy of the netherworld. At the same time, streams of wind revolved around the evil-slaying sword as it slashed through the air toward a certain direction. It was so fast that it looked like a white line piercing through the sky. 6 strikes of the war god, wind sword. The vermilion bird princess appeared before Lin and kicked the black blade of the sword. Rumble. The collision of energy shook the surrounding void. After Lin's body exploded, his strength increased tremendously. His sword slashes were also much more terrifying than before. The vermilion bird princess felt like a boundless sword might was sweeping toward her with mountain-toppling force, and her kick was completely suppressed. Break through, and Lin let loose a clear cry, and the evil-slaying sword was unstoppable. An inky black sword projection flashed through the air and forced the vermilion bird princess back. The vermilion bird princess' heart jolted with shock. The man before her was still able to become even more powerful, and he was even vaguely superior to her. How is this possible? All of a sudden, heaven and earth dimmed, and the stars and moon disappeared as the world fell into boundless darkness. Even her consciousness was temporarily obscured. 6 strikes of the war god, Shadow Tiger. The vermilion bird princess' expression shifted again, but her powerful battle instincts forced her to curl her wings around her petite body. Whoosh! A dark sword light appeared and landed on her colorful wall of wings. Light returned to heaven and earth, and a gash appeared on the colorful wings. The back of the vermilion bird princess dress had also been torn open, and a gash had appeared on her pristine, white back. She had only just turned around to find that Lin had already retreated to over 1,000 feet away. At the same time, 99 white sword projections materialized in the air, and the entire space around them trembled and screeched. The space within a radius of over a kilometer had been transformed into a vacuum to make way for the white celestial swords. 6 strikes of the war god, 100 sword technique. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 99 white celestial swords transformed into streaks of light that hurtled toward the vermilion bird princess with extremely fearsome sharpness. Each and every celestial sword was powerful enough to tear a return to void stage mighty figure in half. Don't underestimate me. The vermilion bird princess roared as she kicked each and every celestial sword with her red boots, shattering the celestial swords with her devastating power. The sword projections lit up the night sky, and the red lotuses shone with dazzling light. The battle between the two of them was so intense that it felt as if they were going to tear the entire arena apart. Close to 100,000 bird tribe powerful beings were completely entranced, and they didn't even know what words they could use to describe this battle. Countless top-tier spell techniques, extraordinary battle techniques, unfathomable techniques, indescribably terrifying power. Every single scene was deeply engraved into their minds. It's so intense. It's so thrilling. This is definitely the most intense battle the arena has ever seen. That's right. This is indeed a battle of the highest caliber. I feel like I'm watching two top-tier Sun Tree War gods battle. Countless powerful beings were extremely excited. The golden tour guide, the yellow cow, also gaped with its mouth wide open as it stared blankly at the battle taking place. Never would it have thought that this ordinary-looking human would be this powerful. The main judge, the heavenly flame vermilion bird, was also extremely excited. The power displayed by the two contestants was even more powerful than it. One had to realize that it was an immortal beast at the pinnacle of the return to void initial stage. What did it mean for two soul formation stage living beings to be more powerful than it? They were definitely supremely talented prodigies that were extremely difficult to find even on the entire Tai Chu continent. In my heart, both of them are Sun Tree War gods. The main judge, the heavenly flame vermilion bird, announced. Countless spectators were astonished upon hearing this. One had to realize that the southern heavenly wing nation's Sun Tree War gods were already one of the most glorious titles in the world. For the main judge to say something like this was clearly a sign of his approval of the two contestants. They turned their eyes toward the arena, and they were all completely convinced by the power being displayed. I'm going to make a breakthrough. Watching such a high-level battle and feeling the profound and exquisite realm, there was finally an expert of the bird clan who had an epiphany. It was a spirit-nurturing initial stage lark that had broken through its bottleneck and was about to progress to the spirit-nurturing intermediate stage, and it flapped its wings excitedly. All of the surrounding bird tribe, powerful beings, turned to look at the lark with envy on their faces. The vital energy vortex surged for several kilometers before surging toward the lark's body. However, it was as if all of the vital energy had been sucked dry, and all of it rushed toward the arena. What? The lark stared at the arena with a dumbstruck expression, and its mouth gaped open. Here, the vital energy of heaven and earth surged in a frenzy like a vortex. That's right, all of the vital energy seemed to be revolving with that spot as the center. All of the vital energy within a radius of several kilometers seemed to be under the command of a return to void stage mighty figure. The two people in the arena were even more insane. All of the vital energy within a radius of 5 kilometers revolved around them and transformed into countless fearsome spell techniques. The lark sucked in another mouthful of vital energy in an attempt to make a breakthrough, only to find that not only did no vital energy enter its body, the vital energy within its body was instead flowing toward the center of the arena. All of the surrounding bird tribe, powerful beings, turned to the lark with sympathetic expressions. The lark. Chapter 9:33. 10,000 mythological bees stampeded over the lark's heart. It had finally attained enlightenment and was about to make a breakthrough, but it couldn't absorb any vital energy. What the hell was going on? Were those two freaks in the arena monsters? Even vital energy from so far away had been restricted. How the F *CK could it still play? The lark fled from the arena with tears streaming down its face. It had to hurry. If it couldn't absorb vital energy during its breakthrough, it would become the first spirit-nurturing stage cultivator in the entire village to fail its breakthrough due to a lack of vital energy of heaven and earth. It would become a F*King joke if word got out. At the center of the battle, the vermilion bird princess shattered over 90 celestial swords with a kick before slapping a few more with her colorful wings. At this moment, the evil-slaying sword had already transformed into the 100th sword, which flew toward the vermilion bird princess. A brilliant white light flashed as the might of the sword surged into the heavens. In that instant, all of the spectators could hear the earth-shattering ringing of the sword. The blade of the sword was so sharp that even the powerful beings of the bird tribe felt a sharp pain shoot through their bodies. The vermilion bird princess let loose a delicate cry as the divine symbol on her forehead unleashed a peerless divine might. Her red high heels slashed through the air in a crimson trajectory as she unleashed all of her power to kick the final sword strike. Boom! A series of inky black cracks appeared in the air as red and white energy intertwined in a frenzy. The sword intent continued onward with unstoppable might and managed to suppress the red light. The vermilion bird princess screamed as her entire body was blasted into the ground by the sword projection of the evil-slaying sword. The white light crashed into the ground with boundless sharpness, tearing a massive fissure in the ground and slicing the entire arena in half. The vermilion bird princess stood up from the rubble with a disheveled expression and raised her head to discover that Enlin was holding a high-ranked spirit sword in his hand. The high-ranked spirit sword then shattered, and a rain of cherry blossoms fell from the sky, creating a breathtaking sight to behold. 6 strikes of the war god. 4th technique, sword burial. In order to save his own life, Enlin had swapped out all of the high-ranked spirit tools in his storage ring for spirit swords. He had done all of this to save his own life. The vermilion bird princess was the most terrifying opponent he had ever faced, and he was using all of his power to defeat her. The vermilion bird princess' eyes widened as she looked up at the cherry blossoms falling from the sky. She had yet to catch her breath, and there was a sobbing sound in her voice. "Why are you still here?" And Lin chuckled. "I don't have much time left. Since you're so cute, I'll give you the full set of 6 strikes of the war god. How about it? Are you touched?" "I don't dare to move." The vermilion bird princess pouted as she looked up at Enlin with an aggrieved expression. Tears shimmered in her big, bright eyes as she spoke in a feeble voice. "I've been bullied to this extent by you. Can't you just forgive me?" Enlin's heart fluttered slightly at the sight of the vermilion bird princess' pitiful expression before coming to his senses and flared up with rage. "You're trying to fool me again? Take this, Demonis. Take my pay-to-win move. Cherry Rain Spiritual Sword's Funeral Song." He pointed a finger at the vermilion bird princess from afar, and boundless light instantly erupted from the pink shard. An immortal tree appeared behind Enlin as a powerful, yet ethereal power converged at his fingertip. The cherry blossoms in the sky swirled before converging in front of Enlin to form a transparent pink blade projection. At the same time, the power of the moon in the sky was drawn upon to make the pink longsword even more fearsome. When he was at the soul formation intermediate stage, his sword burial was able to wound the demonic baby, which was at the pseudo-void pinnacle stage. Now that he was at the soul formation final stage, how powerful would his sword burial be? Everything in heaven and earth dimmed upon the emergence of the pink sword. It was as if the cherry blossoms in the night sky had become even more dazzling than the stars and the moon. The transparent blade projection and the power imbued within it were nowhere near the grandeur of a trump card. However, the vermilion bird princess expression had become unprecedentedly grave. A sense of peril and death engulfed her entire body. This was a sword imbued with extremely potent killing intent. Even though the spectators were separated by the spell formation, they still felt as if a sword had been pressed against their hearts, and they felt as if their lives were going to end in the next second. Many of the birds with weaker cultivation bases had already fainted from fright. Even the more powerful living beings stared at the pink longsword in silence, not even daring to breathe too loudly. The vermilion bird princess body trembled slightly, and the blood in her body seemed to have congealed by the omnipresent killing intent. "Linen, I've never been so excited and trembling before. Your presence here is the reason why I came to the arena." The vermilion bird princess breathing accelerated, but her eyes were extremely bright as she stared intently at Enlin in the sky. The colorful wings on her back dissipated and transformed back into 9 colorful streamers before forming a 9-color divine sword in her hand. "Oh, you're not going to kick me with your high heels anymore?" Enlin spoke in a slow voice as he continued to accumulate power, and the pink longsword slowly became transparent. "You're so shameless. My feet are hurting from your kicks, so I'll just kill you with my sword." The Vermilion Bird Princess voice was ethereal as she looked at Enlin with a meaningful gaze before disappearing on the spot. Enlin's expression shifted. He didn't think that the Vermilion Bird Princess would choose to attack first. Was she not afraid of death? The cherry blossom immortal tree behind him disappeared, and the power of the pink sword reached its peak. At this moment, the Vermilion Bird Princess had already appeared in front of Enlin. Enlin pointed a finger at the Vermilion Bird Princess without any hesitation, and the pink sword projection was imbued with killing intent that froze space itself as it stabbed toward the Vermilion Bird Princess heart. A determined expression appeared on the Vermilion Bird Princess face as she stabbed her 9-color divine sword toward Enlin's heart. The terrifying might of her sword made the spell formation tremor violently before the sword had even been unleashed. Enlin's expression shifted drastically. Was this woman trying to King trade her life for his? That was way too insane. However, he had the body of the war god, so his defenses were not going to be broken so easily. She was going to risk her life against him. The Vermilion Bird Princess was going to die, for sure. Thus, neither of them took evasive measures, and both of them stabbed their swords toward each other's hearts without any fear of death. The pink sword projection left a faint pink trajectory in the air before tearing through the Vermilion Bird Princess dress and puncturing her chest, upon which blood gushed forth. The pink sword blade was unstoppable. Even the formation that the divine beast had set up to stabilize the arena was torn apart. A pink trail was drawn in the night sky and extended to infinity. The power of the Vermilion Bird Princess 9-color divine sword converged toward a single point before clashing with Enlin's divine body, upon which dazzling light erupted, as if it were a gorgeous flower blooming in the night sky. This was an attack comparable to that of a Return of Void final stage mighty figure, but it was unable to break through Enlin's divine body in a short time. Enlin was ecstatic upon seeing this. The blood gushing forth from the Vermilion Bird Princess heart stained the 9-color divine sword before fusing into the blade, thereby elevating the power of the sword drastically. A chill ran down Enlin's spine. Was she sacrificing her blood to the sword? Could it be that this was all part of her plan? In order to make him lower his guard and think that he was going to win by exchanging a life for a life, she had saved this killing intent for the very end? A faint smile appeared on the Vermilion Bird Princess face, and her eyes narrowed, like a cat extending its claws. Let's die together. Splat! The 9-color divine sword punctured his body, and blood gushed forth again. Enlin's eyes widened as he stared blankly at his puncture heart. Chapter 9:34. Never would Enlin have thought that his heart would be punctured just like that. Indescribable pain swept through his entire body, and death was like a vortex that sucked at his entire being, as if it was trying to take everything away from him. Close to 100,000 spectators all let loose cries of surprise. They had thought that one of them would emerge victorious in the end, but they didn't think that the two of them would stab each other's hearts at the same time. The Vermilion Bird Princess pulled out the 9-color divine sword with great difficulty, and her body swayed unsteadily as she threw up another mouthful of blood. "Hey, little tabby cat. Ugh. Your blood has dirted my clothes." A disgruntled and indistinct voice suddenly sounded. The Vermilion Bird Princess immediately turned toward the man before her with astonishment on her face. Enlin had one hand clasped over his heart while stuffing medicine into his mouth with the other, the 7th-grade immortal pill, Spirit Regeneration Pill, which had extremely potent regenerative properties. 2 7th-grade immortal fruits, Blood Dragon fruits, which were super nourishing fruits. He stuffed all of the immortal fruits and immortal pills that could regenerate injuries into his mouth as he activated his 2nd stage evergreen technique with all his might. The Vermilion Bird Princess voice trembled. Why aren't you dead yet? Are soul formation stage cultivators this hard to kill? Fake. You must be a fake. And Lin chuckled coldly. You're still alive, aren't you? I've never seen a King soul formation stage living being who can take a 500,000 spirit stone attack head-on without dying. You're way too powerful. He stuffed a few more high-rank spirit pills into his mouth as he spoke. The Vermilion Bird Princess was about to have a mental breakdown, and she pointed a finger at Lin as she yelled, You're still taking pills. This isn't fair. You could take pills too. No one's stopping you. And Lin rolled his eyes. With the help of the immortal pills, immortal fruits, and spiritual pills, as well as the power of the second stage of the evergreen technique, his pierced heart rapidly recovered. Clearly, he was no longer in mortal danger. The Vermilion Bird Princess gripped onto her bleeding wound with tears on the verge of flowing. I didn't bring any medicine. How could she have imagined that she would encounter a freak like Lin? She could even torture return to Void Stage immortal beasts with ease. And Lin smiled and said, I can give you medicine. The Vermilion Bird Princess faltered slightly upon hearing this before tears began to well up in her eyes. Really? Big brother Lin, you really are a good person. He is a true warrior who disdains using underhanded means to win. But I have a condition. And Lin pointed to the array that had been pierced by his burial sword. The array has been destroyed. I'll give you the pill. Admit defeat and leave this place. The formation was there to prevent the warriors from escaping, so that they could fight to the death. As long as little K escaped from the formation, no one would be able to stop her. In this way, she would be able to live, and Lin would have an easier time winning. Little K looked deeply into Lin's eyes when she heard this. Her lips curled into a faint smile as she said, I can't believe that you actually know how to have tender and protective feelings for the fair sex. It's respecting the elderly and cherishing the young. And Lin corrected as he took a glance at little K's petite and slender body, upon which he nodded silently. The Vermilion Bird Princess was enraged, and her blood flowed even more quickly. In contrast, Lin's injuries were almost completely healed, and Lin's brows furrowed. Boy, you're really about to die. Aren't you going to try and save me? The Vermilion Bird Princess paused momentarily before shaking her head with a serious expression. No, thank you for your kind intentions. I'm only one step away. This is my final battle, and I hope to achieve 100 consecutive victories today. Setting aside the fact that you have no chance of beating me. Even if you do, are you going to take the title of champion and the Sun Tree War God with you to the grave? And Lin was perplexed. The Vermilion Bird Princess glared at Lin. What do you mean I have no chance of beating you? And Lin thought to himself, you only have a sliver of blood left, and I'm at full strength. How could I lose? Cut the crap. You won't understand my desire to fight for glory, to never surrender, and to die with no regrets. This is the final battle. If we don't start now, I'm going to die. Hurry up. The Vermilion Bird Princess urged with an impatient expression. At the same time, a powerful aura erupted from her body as her divine seal unleashed a dazzling divine light that blasted upon her body, elevating her aura over time. And Lin stared speechlessly at the young woman who was staking everything she had. What was the point? Why did he have to do this? Was he sick? The Vermilion Bird Princess' colorful dress danced in the wind as she wielded her 9-colored divine sword, which radiated divine light in all directions. A dazzling divine light pierced through the night sky, as if it were a lamp on the sun tree. At that moment, it was as if she were the only goddess in this world, taking away all of the light in this world. Linen, this will be my final sword strike. The winner will definitely be me. The Vermilion Bird Princess was bathed in divine light, and her colorful dress had been stained red. A peculiar flush appeared on her face, as if she was expending the last of her life force. All the spectators were stunned speechless by the woman in this state. The scene in front of them would perhaps forever be imprinted in their minds. Regardless of whether she won or lost, she would forever be a war god in their hearts. And Lin was struck by a sense of awe and veneration as he looked at the young woman in her current state. He then silently pulled out his chaotic alloy brick. The war god of the sun tree will not lose. A pleasant voice sounded. The war god of the celestial court will not lose either. And Lin murmured to himself. The Vermilion Bird Princess had ignited her life force to unleash the most powerful attack she had ever unleashed. She wielded her 9-color divine sword and slashed it down toward Enlin. Enlin raised his black brick and positioned it in front of him. The rainbow sword projection lit up the entire night sky, creating a dreamy and beautiful scene. On the arena, the 9-colored sword projection sliced through the protective formation, as well as the entire arena and the 6th level. Over 10,000 spectators were struck by the terrifying sword projection, and their bodies were completely engulfed by the boundless rainbow light. This was a power that struck fear into everyone's heart. This was a power that could destroy all living beings. All of the living beings on the 5th level instantly erupted into a massive commotion upon seeing the 6th level being torn apart by the divine light. As for the living beings on the 6th level, most of them were spectating from the arena, and they were clearly all dumbstruck. After unleashing that earth-shattering sword strike, the Vermilion Bird Princess aura finally began to wane. "Did I win?" she murmured to herself as she looked toward a certain direction outside the arena. Some of the startled birds began to flee in all directions. There were also many powerful beings who were as stable as old dogs who followed the Vermilion Bird Princess gaze toward that direction. That sword strike had sliced through everything, but there was a massive black brick that was completely unscathed at the end of the inky black fissure. The black brick wriggled before being lifted by a white-robed man. "Phew! It crushed me," and Lin grumbled as he stood up in a disheveled manner. How could this be? The Vermilion Bird Princess features were deathly pale, and her body trembled as blood flowed from the corners of her lips. "I lost," and Lin turned to the Vermilion Bird Princess and shook his head with a forlorn sigh. "Are you an idiot, little cat? I was clearly the one who lost. According to the rules of the arena, an opponent who is knocked out of the arena is also judged to have lost." He raised his head with a smile. "So, little cat, you won." The Vermilion Bird Princess body trembled as she murmured to herself, "I won. That's right. Congratulations on your 100th consecutive victory." And Lin gave her a thumbs up. "Sun Tree War God, Vermilion Bird Princess. I won." The Vermilion Bird Princess was still repeating the same words. "Am I the real Sun Tree War God now?" The 9-colored ribbon gradually dimmed, as if her life had come to an end. At this moment, all of the living beings on the arena yelled the same thing. "Sun Tree War God, Vermilion Bird Princess. Sun Tree War God, Vermilion Bird Princess." Their voices converged into a massive wave that soared into the heavens. They were yelling this title from the bottom of their hearts. The Vermilion Bird Princess was worthy of this title. 2 streams of tears flowed down the Vermilion Bird Princess' cheeks as she looked at Enlin in the distance, and a vibrant smile suddenly appeared on her face. Her smile was like a blooming flower in the night sky, beautiful and pure, and heaven and earth seemed to pale in comparison. "Linen, thank you." The Vermilion Bird Princess body dissipated into specks of colorful light, but her heavenly voice still lingered in Enlin's ears. Chapter 935. The Vermilion Bird Princess had died, and all of the spectators fell into a mournful atmosphere. They really loved the Vermilion Bird Princess. She was an extremely powerful and adorable girl who interacted with the spectators, and she was already the most dazzling presence in the entire arena. Her charisma had even surpassed that of any of the past Sun Tree War gods. However, the Vermilion Bird Princess had left just like that. She had expended her last bit of light and warmth in the arena before completely disappearing from their lives. The host wiped the tears from his eyes as he tried his best to calm the grief in his heart. He was actually a huge fan of the Vermilion Bird Princess, and he would always be extremely excited whenever the Vermilion Bird Princess participated in a match. He would also be extremely proud to see this alluring young woman walk toward the pinnacle. However, who would have thought that tonight would be the Vermilion Bird Princess' final battle? Enlin also sighed with emotion. He wanted to save the Vermilion Bird Princess. After all, there was a soul formation stage living being in this world that was just as bad *SS as he was, and he felt like he had found a soulmate. However, the Vermilion Bird Princess would rather die in battle than admit defeat. Enlin wasn't going to go easy on her either. The Vermilion Bird Princess was extremely proud, and she wouldn't allow Enlin to do this. Rest in peace, Vermilion Bird Princess. And Lin heaved a faint sigh before turning to leave the arena. Mr. Lin, please wait. The heavenly flame vermilion bird's voice suddenly sounded at this moment. And Lin's footsteps faltered upon hearing this, and he turned to the vermilion bird with a smile. What is it? You're not going to let me go, are you? The rule of the arena was that only the champion could leave alive. As the loser, it wasn't impossible for Lin to be forced to stay here. However, he wasn't scared. As long as the mythological beast didn't appear, he had a way to escape. Mr. Lin, you've misunderstood. The heavenly flame vermilion bird explained in a panicked voice. Even though the vermilion bird princess knocked you out of the arena, you were the last person standing. After some discussion, we've decided to give you the glory that you deserve. We've decided that you and the vermilion bird princess will be the champions of the arena today. And Lin was dumbfounded. Tied for first place? Was that even possible? The MC's impassioned voice sounded again. Now, let us welcome Fist God Lin and the Vermilion Bird Princess to the stage. Tens of thousands of spectators erupted into cheers and applause once again upon hearing this. Countless powerful beings from the bird tribe chanted the name Fist God and Lin. This was the glory that Lin had earned through his own strength. And Lin's words had also improved their impression of him. After all, he was the one who had announced that the Vermilion Bird Princess was going to win first place, and he had also announced the rules of the other arenas before conceding defeat. All of the birds knew that the winner of the Sun Tree Arena would be the one who remained standing until the very end, so there was no need for Lin to say such things. However, Lin had done so. Such an upright and powerful person. Why couldn't he have the glory of being the champion? And Lin raised the championship trophy of the Sun Tree Arena and smiled at the cheers and roars of the tens of thousands of spectators. He knew that the title of Fist God Lin would spread throughout the entire southern Heavenly Wing Nation as a result of this battle. The main judge, the Heavenly Flame Vermilion Bird, personally handed a white badge to Lin with a smile. Mighty warrior of the arena, Lin, our Sun Tree welcomes you to the 7th level as a guest. And Lin's eyes lit up. This was his true goal. Thank you, Senior Heavenly Flame. I'll be going to the 7th level tomorrow. And Lin accepted the badge with a calm expression. The Heavenly Flame Vermilion Bird also flapped its wings with a smile to express its welcome. The battle at the Sun Tree Arena drew to a close, but the massive impact of that battle was only just beginning to ferment. The impact of that legendary battle was only just beginning. And Lin reunited with Shui Zhantian and the Yellow Cow. After witnessing that earth-shattering battle, the Yellow Cow stared at Lin with reverence and fervor in its eyes, and almost impulsively leaned into Lin's chest. Master, that battle of yours was truly earth-shattering and earth-shattering. I couldn't stop watching it. Shui Zhantian leaned against Lin's chest with a blissful expression. And Lin rubbed Snowball in his arms and heaved a faint sigh. What a pity. It wasn't easy for me to find an opponent who could fight me to my heart's content. Shui Zhantian knew who he was talking about, and he also sighed with emotion. It's easy to find someone who understands you. Master and her are truly destined to be together. I'll be sure to report this to Xiaolan and ask her to comfort you. And Lin pinched Shui Zhantian with rage. Do you want to die? Shui Zhantian screeched. Please spare me, Master. I was the one who said the wrong thing. I'll definitely repent and turn over a new leaf. The Yellow Cow stared speechlessly at the quarreling man and beast, unable to say anything. The next morning, all of the living beings on the Sun Tree were made aware of what had happened on the 6th level. That was an earth-shattering battle between two Soul Formation stage powerful beings, and it was an earth-shattering battle that far exceeded that of most returned to Void stage mighty figures. The statue of the 11th Sun Tree War God stood atop the palace of the War God. The title of War God Vermilion Bird Princess spread throughout the entire southern Heavenly Wing Nation. Aside from that, Fist God Lin An's reputation also spread like wildfire. The powerful being who had fought the Sun Tree War God to a draw became a hot topic for all living beings. And Lin didn't really care much about this, and he followed the Yellow Cow to the passageway leading to the 7th level with his white badge in hand. The way to the 7th level was no longer to use a hovering energy board. Instead, it was a type of flying bubble that could envelop a target and allow them to float directly to the 7th level. The 7th level was very mysterious. It was enshrouded in a peculiar mist that made it impossible to see what was going on inside, but apparently it was possible to see what was going on outside from inside. The two-soul formation stage Vermilion Bird Tribe soul beasts bowed with smiles on their faces upon seeing Lin. Welcome, brave warrior Linen. The gate to the 7th level will be open for you. Shui Zhantian was quite elated to see the arrogant Vermilion Bird Tribe members being so polite to him, and he couldn't help but hum a Chinese idiom. And Lin nodded lightly. He had earned this respect through his power, so he made his way over to them. I'm sorry, but only the champion of the arena can enter the 7th level. The Vermilion Bird extended its wings to stop the yellow cow and Shui Zhantian. A disappointed expression appeared on the yellow cow's face. He knew this would happen, but he was still a little disappointed. Shui Zhantian was enraged by Lin's words and was just about to let loose a torrent of abuse when a thought suddenly occurred to him. He opened his big, round eyes and flapped his little wings as he spoke in an extremely crisp, mellow voice. Big brother Vermilion Bird, I'm Fist God Lin and's beast pet. I'm a very obedient and won't cause trouble. A faint blush appeared on his snowball-like body as he spoke, and he stared at the two vermilion birds with his big, blue eyes. He was super adorable. I wouldn't let you go even if you were the bacteria on Lin's body, let alone a beast pet like you. The vermilion bird was unmoved. The other vermilion bird unleashed flames to burn away the bacteria on Lin's body. And Lin was shocked. Was it really that strict? Shui Zhantian gritted his teeth with an expression of indignation. If he couldn't accompany Lin, how was he supposed to take photos of Lin's crimes? How detestable! Shui Zhantian and the yellow cow had no choice but to remain where they were. And Lin was enshrouded within a huge bubble as he slowly flew toward the 7th level. He looked up at the white mist with scorching curiosity in his eyes. He was finally here. What was on the 7th level? Chapter 9:36. And Lin rode on the transparent bubble and passed through layers of mist to see a series of white, jade-like leaves rustling in the wind. A series of dazzling white tree branches intertwined with one another to form a bird's nest. It was a warm and natural place with a holy aura emanating from its simplicity. There were a series of bird nests of different sizes on the continent, upon which there were many powerful vermilion birds with powerful auras. All of them were releasing flames of all different colors, creating an extremely beautiful sight to behold. Auspicious chi of all different colors rose up from the ground, making this place feel like a dreamy realm. There seemed to be no weaklings among the vermilion bird tribe living here. Even the weakest adult vermilion birds were at the soul formation stage, and the little vermilion birds were also very intelligent and were playing around with one another. The pleasant chirping of birds reverberated throughout the continent. This was most likely the paradise of the vermilion bird tribe. However, there were also some birds that he couldn't name. For example, there was a four-winged bird with golden spikes all over its body. There was also a water bird with a smooth body that lay on the ground like a lake. In any case, they all looked very awesome. The bubble carried Lin onto a patch of empty ground. Welcome to the 7th level of the Sun Tree, warrior of the arena. A black vermilion bird flew toward Lin with a smile on its face. A black light flashed past, and the vermilion bird took on the form of a human. A tall and muscular man in black made his way over and shook hands with Lin in an enthusiastic manner. Welcome, Fist God Lin. My name is Hate Tunga, and I'm the supervisor responsible for receiving visitors. Hello, Mr. Hatinga. It is my honor to be able to visit the 7th level of the Sun Tree. And Lin was a little surprised to see such an enthusiastic vermilion bird, but he still responded in a polite manner. Hatinga smiled. It's not an honor. The 7th level is actually quite ordinary. The vital energy here is a little richer. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth is a little more concentrated, the scenery is a little better, and the yang attribute of the Sun Tree is a little more concentrated. There really isn't anything special about this level. And Lin's lips twitched slightly. Hatinga continued. The reason why this level is isolated from the outside world is that our vermilion bird tribe wants a place where we can cultivate in peace. I hope you can keep everything that has happened here a secret, Mr. Enlin. Enlin immediately nodded. Don't worry, I've always been a tight-lipped person, and I definitely won't tell anyone. Xiaolan wasn't an outsider. Dabai, Tina, Xiao Tian, of course, and Xiao Zhe Waren of the Vermilion Bird. A satisfied smile appeared on Hatinga's face. Please come with me, Mr. Lennon. I'll introduce this place to you, and I guarantee that you'll benefit greatly from it. Of Hatinga's voice. The energy was extremely rich here. Of the chi. Most importantly, the yang attribute energy here was especially rich. Cultivating yang attribute cultivation techniques here would yield twice the results with half the effort. He encountered many of birds He and was like of another. His posture was elegant, and his temperament was noble and inviolable. He was like a noble among birds. These creatures on the 7th floor all had their own pride. They walked with their heads held high and their chests puffed out. Even when facing the outsider, and Lin, they were disdainful. Why was there such a big difference in their attitudes? And Lin silently looked at the warm and considerate Hatinga beside him, and he couldn't help but recall the words of the bird tribe representative in charge of registration at the arena. Hide your disgust and disdain toward you. We are professionals. He was starting to doubt whether the burly man's attitude towards him was sincere or not. However, it didn't matter to him whether it was sincere or not. In any case, he didn't really come to visit the 7th floor. Not long after, they arrived at an area densely covered with golden runes and surrounded by small mountains. A scorching expression appeared on Hatinga's face. This place is known as the mythological beast Tao Observation Area. The 5 mighty mythological beasts of our sun tree have all left a portion of their power here to bestow upon those who are fated with them. Mr. Lennon, as the champion of the arena, you have a chance to receive the approval of the mythological beasts. He pointed at 5 majestic white statues of different shapes and sizes before introducing them one by one. This is the ruler of our Vermilion Bird Tribe, the most powerful being in the southern heavenly wing nation, the eternal sun god. And Lin looked up to discover that the eternal sun god statue was an extremely handsome vermilion bird. At this moment, there were already 12 vermilion birds in the mythological beast Tao observation area who had turned toward Lin with undisguised disdain, disgust in their eyes. That's right, there were only 12 vermilion birds in the mythological beast Tao observation area, and all of them were glaring at Lin. And Lin turned toward Hatinga with a smile. Your vermilion bird tribe, sure, is friendly. They're glaring at me as soon as I arrive. An awkward smile appeared on Hatinga's face. It's all right. They're just too straightforward and aren't as reserved as I am. And Lin turned to the burly man beside him with an astonished expression. Straightforward? Reserved? As expected, this vermilion bird was the same type of bird as them. Hatinga seemed to have realized that he had let the cat out of the bag, and he coughed lightly before explaining, We're actually not targeting you. We treat all other living beings the same way. After all, the vermilion bird is a mighty being, and only living beings with its bloodline are worthy of respect. And Lin chuckled. Racial discrimination? You can think of it as racial discrimination against all living beings on the entire continent. Hatinga said with difficulty, unless there's a particularly dazzling and powerful living being that can truly earn our respect. Lin, Hatinga was a little embarrassed. Don't worry, Mr. Lin. I'm a professional at hiding my disgust and disgust toward you. I won't make you feel even the slightest bit uncomfortable. And Lin's chest constricted, and he roared in his heart. You're already making me feel uncomfortable. Hatinga became even more embarrassed upon seeing Lin's expression, and he pointed to another statue before forcefully changing the topic. This is the statue of the mythological beast, Kuin Pong. Even though it has already traveled through countless realms, Its name is still renowned across the entire continent. And Lin nodded upon hearing this. There was a famous line in the poem. There is a fish in the northern ocean known as the kuan. The kuan is so big that it cannot be stewed in a single pot. The kuan pung had two forms. One was the fish form, which could swallow all fishes and prawns in one gulp. The other was the pung form, which could roam as high as the heavens and as vast as the seas. Heitinga then pointed to another statue. This is the statue of a nine-colored divine vermilion bird, and it resides on the divine sun tree. As long as it exists, no one on the entire continent would dare to offend our southern heavenly wing nation. A proud expression appeared on Heitinga's face at the mention of the nine-colored divine vermilion bird. It was clearly extremely respectful toward this mythological beast. Unlin's expression also became serious. He had to consider the threat posed by this mythological beast if he wanted to do that. There were 3 mythological beasts on the sun tree, but only the nine-colored divine vermilion bird was currently residing on the sun tree. The statue of the nine-colored divine vermilion bird was extremely intricate, and it was in the form of a massive peacock with its tail spread open. Its posture was graceful, and its eyes were extremely bright and piercing. And Lin asked in a quiet voice, "This nine-colored divine vermilion bird looks very gentle. Is it also very gentle and easy to talk to?" "Ha ha ha! You must be joking, Mr. Lin." Heitinga chortled with glee as he patted Lin's shoulder. "Not taking into account other matters, but our divine vermilion bird tribe is renowned for our fiery temper. We don't bother with trifles, but if we make a big mistake, even the mighty vermilion bird tribe will be swallowed whole." Cold sweat poured down in Lin's face. Chapter 9:37. If he had kissed the guardian of the sun god, would that be a trivial matter? This was a very important question, and Lin felt like the pressure was building up again. Heitinga pointed to a statue before continuing his introduction. "This senior is one of the most ancient mythological beasts of our tribe. Her name is the undying divine vermilion bird, but it's a pity that she fell to the purple star Tao vanquishing formation, Sai." And Lin repressed the urge to grumble as he forced a look of sorrow and regret onto his face. The undying divine vermilion bird had been killed, so how could he still use this title? Wouldn't he feel ashamed? Heitinga reminisced for a moment before pointing to the final statue. "This is a very powerful mythological beast of our tribe. She is a phoenix that inherited the bloodline of the vermilion bird, and her name is the mutant blood phoenix. Unfortunately, due to some unknown reason, this senior unfortunately fell somewhere." And Lin drew a sharp intake of breath as he looked at the final statue. He was very familiar with this mythological beast. Fate was a very strange thing sometimes. And Lin looked at the mutant blood phoenix, and a sense of familiarity welled up in his heart as he sighed with emotion. Heitinga sighed with emotion at the sight of Lin's expression. "Sigh, even powerful mythological beasts can fall at some point. I wonder who killed this senior and whether she received a proper burial." And Lin knew a little about the mutant blood phoenix, and he offered words of consolation. "Don't worry. Senior Mutant Blood Phoenix is so powerful and exceptional that she will live on even after her death. That's right, he would inherit the power of the Mutant Blood Phoenix and continue to flourish. As for a proper burial, there was no need for Heitinga to worry about. Its flesh and blood had already been burned by Lin and Su Xiaolan, and its bones had been cut off by Lin to be preserved in his storage ring. Brother Lin, you're absolutely right. We will inherit its spirit and power. Senior Mutant Blood Phoenix may have died, but it is still alive." Heitinga spoke with a scorching light in his eyes, and Lin's lips twitched upon hearing this. If Heitinga knew what he had done to the Mutant Blood Phoenix, would he explode on the spot? That's all for the introductions of the 5 mighty mythological beasts of the Sun Tree. Now, you have a chance to obtain the recognition of the power they left behind here. This is the privilege of the champion of the arena. Which one would you like to start with, Mr. Lin?" Heitinga asked with a smile, and Lin thought about it for a moment before deciding to follow Heitinga's introductions. The two of them arrived in front of the eternal sun god. There were three powerful beings from the vermilion bird race beside him, who were studying the power left behind by the eternal sun god. They looked at Enlin with disdain. Humph! A creature from the lower realm wants to gain the recognition of our Lord, eternal sun god? What wishful thinking! That's right. How dare a weakling with a lowly bloodline dream of winning the favor of our son, tree divine beast? What a joke! Yet, there's always someone vying for this opportunity. The last time a creature received the favor of a divine beast was 2 years ago, right? That's right. Hee hee, it's still a pitiful legacy light. I heard that this Lin and is quite powerful. Is he going to be a little more powerful? Huh. So what if he's powerful? It's not like he'll be able to take all of the inheritance left behind by the mythological beast. Besides, the inheritance doesn't depend on power. Instead, it depends on one's bloodline and luck. We've been studying the statue for so long, and we've only received a few inheritances. All of the powerful beings from the vermilion bird tribe conversed with one another, completely disregarding Enlin's feelings. Enlin wore a smile on his face, but he was cursing like crazy in his heart. Were all these birds so arrogant nowadays? He really wanted to press these talkative birds into the ground and give them a good beating. Of the 12 vermilion birds present, only 2 were returned to void stage immortal beasts, while the rest were all soul formation stage soul beasts. With his power, he could easily kill all of these noobs on his own. Sigh, it was a pity that this was the divine sun tree. Mr. Hatinga, what should I do? Enlin asked. All you need to do is release your blood essence onto the statue of the mythological beast, then answer a random question from the mythological beast. After that, everything will be decided by the mythological beast. If you're extremely lucky and receive the mythological beast's favor, perhaps you'll be able to receive some of its inheritance. Hatinga explained. He was describing Enlin as lucky, which meant that he didn't think that Enlin would be able to receive the mythological beast's approval through other means. The chances of that happening were extremely slim. One had to realize that he was a mighty mythological beast at the soul formation pinnacle stage and possessed a relatively pure vermilion bird bloodline. Even so, he hadn't received a single inheritance here. Enlin nodded upon hearing this before making his way over to the statue and releasing a drop of blood essence. The reddish-golden blood essence shimmered under the sunlight as bursts of terrifying energy fluctuations proliferated outward. For some reason, all of the vermilion birds were struck by a sense of fear when they saw the drop of blood essence. What's going on? I don't know. This human looks like he's no ordinary human. He's only a little powerful. What's the point of intimidating us with his aura? That's right, we possess the vermilion bird bloodline. Even if he's more powerful than us, we're still more noble than him. That's right, this was the overconfidence of the vermilion bird tribe. Even if you're more powerful than me, I'm still more noble than you. Enlin really wanted to eat the vermilion bird roast wings after hearing these discussions. The drop of blood essence was quickly absorbed by the eternal sun god statue. All of the vermilion bird's expressions shifted drastically. It's been sucked in. Is the eternal sun god not disgusted by this human's blood? Unbelievable. Just as all of the spectating birds were discussing spiritedly, a voice suddenly sounded from the eternal sun god statue. May I ask, which came first, the bird or the egg? Enlin was dumbstruck upon hearing this. All of the vermilion bird tribe living beings were even more shocked. That's one of the most profound questions in our tribe. It's over. Even the most brilliant sage of our tribe can't answer this question. So how can this human answer it? Enlin paused for a few seconds. He felt like the key to this philosophical question wasn't whether the bird or the egg came first, but rather, he spoke in a loud voice with a smile on his face. The vermilion bird came first, and then the heavens. Everything that the bird tribe possesses stems from the holy beast vermilion bird. Everyone suddenly fell silent. Hatinga's mouth gaped open. All of the vermilion birds were dumbstruck. This human really knew how to *king talk. Boom! The stone statue tremored violently. Good! An authoritative voice sounded from afar. Immediately afterward, Two dazzling beams of golden light shot forth from the eternal sun god's eyes before landing on Enlin's glabella. It's here. It's the light of inheritance. A vermilion bird screeched. My God, how could the light of this inheritance be so powerful? Another vermilion bird exclaimed in shock. One had to realize that normally, even if there was an inheritance, it would only be a small wisp of golden light. There was no way a pillar of light would appear. This is the core inheritance of the eternal sun god. A return to void stage vermilion bird murmured. All of the vermilion birds fell into a daze upon hearing this, as they stared blankly at the man whose glabella had been struck by the golden light.